It's Clobberin time. Whoa. Welcome, everyone. Good to see y'all. I hope you're all having a fantastic holiday weekend. It's Clobberin time. Whoa. Welcome. Hey, I just heard an echo of me. I like that.
Oh, that was my fault. Sorry.
And I don't know, it was kind of cool, actually. It was like,
It's that typical thing where I always screw up and I'm like, yeah, I've got all the sound off on the other window where I can see the chat. And it's like, oh, no, I don't. So I corrected that real quick. So
no problem, man. It worked to great effect. I liked it, actually, man. So, again, everyone, it is time for some Clobberin and Retroblasting, a Clobber Retroblasting team up, which we have done many over the years, of folks. And welcome to this is Clobberin Times 149 on YouTube, of course, 849 overall. So I'm getting an echo now. Was that good?
Oh, are you getting an echo? Hold on, I can fix that. I can fix all these problems. Hold on.
Okay. Cool. Wait, now I'm not. So it was it was for a second there.
All right, hold on.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm fixing this problem instantly.
Okay, no biggie. It's not happening now.
But I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Oh well, believe me, I get way worse, dude.
All right, now you'll never get an echo because now I'm wearing my standby ion control Fire headphones.
Well, so. I wouldn't mind if it were you echoing. I just don't like to hear me twice.
It's distracting for everybody.
Yeah, so, I know. Yeah, but they're all cool. But thanks, bro. Appreciate that, man. Look, I want to thank everyone. I want to thank my fantastic guest and a long-time great pal, Michael French of Retroblasting, for joining me tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. Buddy, dude, always a pleasure. I mean, because I know you're a very busy man, and have you hanging out with me, man. We always have, well, I can't speak for you. I'll only speak for me, but I always have a fantastic time, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, no, I was appreciating you asking me to be on this one because I realized we hadn't actually talked about the MCU ever. We've talked about the films kind of as they came out on other shows, but we never talked about them in a dedicated show, which I was like, you're right, we haven't. So of course I had to be on here. So absolutely.
Well, thanks, man. Oh yeah, look, and I've been wanting for us to get together and talk about it for a long time. So. And so this is it. And then just look how many great, wonderful people are already popping up in the chat. Thank you all for being here. Dave Bob, what's up, man? Phantom Outsider was here earlier and is still here. Janet from Another Planet. D-Bud Martin, what's up, buddy? And some new friends, Analog Toys. I can't really see everything in my chat, everyone. So let's see here. So I'm just going to say hello to you all. Appreciate it. You're not hearing an echo, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Are you?
Very faint one, but I don't think. We'll see. Now it's gone. Hello. Echo test.
You're like that lady in Doc Hollywood that's like, I see it in my vision, and he just reaches off and cleans off her glasses, and she's like, "You've cured me."
I like it, and I can't remember if I ever watched all of that one. I know the film though. I do know the film. Anyway, but like I said, if anyone does hear anything like that in the chat, because we could only hear so much. If you do hear something, let me know. But look at you like about this, and I'm seeing a lot of names of people that I don't know. My great friend Chris Persia is here. My great friend Mark D with a C. What's up, buddy? And of course, I forgot. I got so ahead of myself. I forgot to tell everyone this is Monday night Mark C Comics Talk. As always, this show and every comic book show I do, which is always Monday nights, is dedicated to my dear departed pal, the great Mark C, as he is called. I'm still miss him very much, and always thinking about him. And he loved comics, and so now I'm still not used to it. It's been a couple of months now, so and there he is. And I as always, I dedicate my comics talk to him. So, and let's see here, not to bring everybody down, but that is the name of the show. Sorry about that. Well, dude, I'll tell you what, the MCU, in a sense, I hope this doesn't sound morbid, by the way, but in a sense, it is kind of like having a memorial, at least in my opinion, since thank you there for the M's, everyone, because for me, the M's, there's really nothing left.
Yeah. We really are scraping the bottom of the barrel at this point.
Yes, it is. Again, and by the way, look, in case you don't know me, Oh, you're Janet from the planet, exactly. Janet from another planet. The MCU, that's what it is. In my opinion, it's now the MCU, and they were kind of going towards that in some of the later films. So we're doing 23. We're going to rank them from 23 down, quote unquote, worst to first, to steal a sports analogy. But, yeah, I don't even know if I'm interested in watching any of it anymore. I've watched their 2 TV shows that came on this year. We're not going to go into that. We're about to get started. I'm saying, I've been kind of disenchanted even over the last few entries, really. And I didn't like their 2 TV shows that just came out. I'm not looking forward to the 3 films that they're releasing this year that much. I don't even think I will go to the theater to see them, to be honest with you.
I completely agree with that. Like I am now at a point where with Disney Plus, I don't want to watch TV shows to then have to go see the movies. And that's what they've told us we have to do. Well, I don't own Disney Plus because I don't believe in that business model for them. And I also don't like the way they're running their franchises. So yeah, I definitely won't be going. And that it's not a boycott like the way people like to describe it. It's me saying, call it what you want, but a company only listens to you when you vote with your wallet. And yeah.
And you know what? If I were excited about them in any, or even in the smallest way, I would, because I went to see every one of them on the first night. And we made it. For better or worse. Well, except for one of them that we're going to name, but for better or worse, almost every one of them, with the exception of one of these films, was an event of sorts. I had a friend of mine and I that always went to a friend and a couple of members of his family, and like a gang of us would go to see the opening night of every MCU film. And even if it wasn't one we were all that excited about, we're like, yeah, it's kind of fun to go get to see it. Let's go watch it. Let's watch the first night. We could talk about it, because no one's sitting here saying they were all perfect. I'm just saying there was a time when it was fun to look forward to them.
Yes.
You get a couple a year, right? And for better or worse, you look forward to them. And now when it starts to seem like a drudgery, when it starts to seem like just kind of a chore, that's when you know you have a problem. And for example, a Black Widow movie should have been made a long time ago. I think everyone has said that. I agree with that. Now I see the trailer. I'm not saying the film looks particularly bad or anything. It just doesn't really look interesting. And again, you have a dead character.
Right. Agreed. It's they've gutted the cast deliberately. And so what's the draw?
Well, I mean, there's a reason that thing and a couple other ones have been sitting on the shelf for a long time. You don't sit a film on even with what has happened in the real world, the pandemic thing. You don't do that. You don't sit a movie on the shelf if you're confident in it, if you think it's going to do well. That and Eternals, of course, has also been sitting on the shelf for a long time. I disgraced the great name of Kirby, looks like to me. Shang-Chi does not look. That should have been maybe a Netflix series or something like that. And the casting looks terrible. And again, I always liked the Master of Kung Fu comic. So, look, dude, I mean, I don't know. Just there was a time when there was, at least for the most part, I had a little bit of excitement about these films. And I think for like almost a decade there, a lot of people did.
Yep. Agreed.
And so, in memoriam, I suppose, for better or worse with these, what we will do tonight is we will count down from 23 on down. I will give mine. Excuse me. I will ask Michael his, because you said you do have them, right?
As a matter of fact, you made me paranoid, so I quickly wrote them all down, and I have 23.
Oh. You didn't have to do that, dude. But yeah,
I didn't want to hem and haw through this, so I just went with my memory and I went boom, 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 and I wrote them all down.
Cool.
So I got it. Yep.
That's cool. And look, I'll ask, since you're the guest, I always like, the reason I say that, because I always like to get the guest to give first, and I give mine, and then we talk about it a little bit. And well, you know the drill, because we've done some lists before.
Yep.
Which one I had a lot of fun. We did it so long ago, you might not even remember. I remember we did movies of the 80s. I want to do that again.
Oh, yeah. I vaguely remember that. Like, not because, I vaguely remember that. What I mean is we've done so many shows together. It's hard to keep them all straight.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was like 10 years ago. So.
Right. There's been a lot of water under that bridge since then. Most of it good. So, well, for us, not for the entertainment industry, but for us. Yeah.
Now, everyone, of course, before we get started, there can't be anyone here who doesn't know about Retroblasting, but I'm going to just pretend there could be for argument's sake. So I'd say in my description below, there's a link not only to the channels of a lot of very good friends that I've made over here on YouTube in this year that I've been here, but of course, Michael and Melinda's great Retroblasting channel, and even a link to a video that we, prior to the X-Men video that, of course, that I was just so honored to be a part of, by the way.
Oh, well, I was so glad to have you. And like I said, we're going to have you in Iconicon as well. You're part of Iconicon. So we're just getting all that teed up as well, as you know. And that'll be in July. And then I'm hoping to get you back on a number of other videos like Pride of the X-Men to talk about other pop culture related things as a subject matter expert. So,
well, dude, I can't wait. And I've got a better mic than I had the last time we recorded one.
And I just noticed something on your titling, and I think it's awesome. I did not notice this until just now. You're kind of doing a I don't know if it's like, I know it's purely for YouTube viewers understanding because maybe they weren't on Grenache Network with you, but I love it because it's kind of like a subtle dig at when Marvel finally had to relent when they reset everything to 1 back in like the early aughts, and then later they were like, oh, we've got to put the old numbering back on there too because the collectors have gotten mad, which rightly so. And so I love the fact that this is Clobberin times 149 parentheses 849, because to me it's always going to be 849. Like that's, you know.
Yes,
yeah.
I appreciate. Yeah, I did that because I hate all that. Just what you're talking about. I hate the legacy numbering crap that they did.
I
really do.
Yeah.
And just, you know, how many comics now? I mean, how many characters now have had number 1? So many different number 1s. It's really annoying.
Yeah.
But I gave them at least a little bit of credit when they finally started putting the legacy number on there. Although it still doesn't mean a whole lot. But
no, it doesn't. But, yeah, it's in number only kind of thing. Yeah.
But in this case, even though I did also add the S because of when I came to YouTube, you know, it was Clobberin time. There's some channels using thy name.
Yep.
I put the S because we're, you know, so we're times now, folks. But yes, you know what, dude? The MCU, kind of up and down for me. I just want to tell everyone when we start, we're going to start with our least favorites. And for me, and I can't speak for my bud Michael here. For me, they're going to be look. There are going to be a lot of things I like. They're going to be, but in the early ones, yeah, you know, I'm not going to be all that kind to some of these films because there's some of them I really dislike. Let's put it like that. Yep. I know you're shocked. Look at the shocked face that everyone's showing. And we can be brutal, bud. We can be brutal.
We can be.
Well, dude, let us. How about we start up, and I will ask you for your number 23. Here we go, everyone. We're ranking the Marvel movies, Retroblasting and Clobberin times. Michael, what is your number 3? No, excuse me, 23.
23 for me. Coming in last and certainly least is Captain Marvel.
We have our first tie of the evening, ladies and gentlemen.
I find this movie forgettable. I find its plotting and boring. I don't like what they did to Nick Fury in this film. And I also found a lot of it also represents the one major time where Kevin Feige's plan, I feel like, had a monkey wrench thrown in the middle of it, because you cannot introduce a character that's supposed to be super important one film before the end of everything. Like, you cannot do that. And so between the very lackluster scripting, the messed up hero character itself straying very, very, very far from the origins of the actual character, the ruination of Nick Fury, and all that, those are all my reasons.
Absolutely. Even if I didn't care about all that, which this is my 23 is also. Mm-hmm. Even if I didn't, which I do, it's a bad film in every other type of way as well. Because when you start out an origin story of a character and you can't sell your character early on, and they never do because she's absolutely hollow, she's poorly written. Mm-hmm. There's nothing interesting about this character. Part of that's the casting, but it's also on the writing. And by the way, I think this is part of Feige's plan. This is all his fault.
Right.
This character is dull and meaningless. And I'll just give you just a slight little history, everyone. There's really only one character in the history of comic books with the title of Captain Marvel that has been a smash success. in terms of sales and popularity, that was, of course, the one who says Shazam. That was in the 40s and even in the early 50s until a lawsuit between Fawcett Comics caused them to go out of business. And DC, who was in National Periodical Publications, destroyed that, pretty much that character for like 20 years. He was missing from racks. Not going to go into all the details of that, but when Marvel paid $4,500 in the late 60s to take that name from a company called AGC or whatever it was, that had an android called Captain Marvel that could take his arms and legs off. I'm not kidding, by the way. And started a comic book with the Kree Captain Marvel, whom I love, by the way. That comic was only just moderately successful. Okay.
Uh-huh.
In fact, it limped along in sales. It lasted 40, so it kept coming back and getting. It just did not. Some great comics, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It limped along in sales. It was not all that popular. And then, of course, arguably his most popular comic was The Death of Captain Marvel, the very first Marvel graphic novel. They passed the name to Monica Rambeau. She became a member of the Avengers. She didn't have her own title. Eventually, a character who was Miss Marvel, of course, Carol Danvers, in the 2000s, at some point, has continually failed as a character to sell comics. She's a failed character. At least Marvel's comic lasted a little while.
Right.
Monica never had a shot at her own title, so who knows? But I have nothing against Monica. She just wasn't, not a character I cared much about either.
Right.
But the Carol Danvers Captain Marvel iteration, they tried 4 or 5 times to launch a series, and no one cared. And this movie, by the way, I'm questioning its box office pull and how it got there.
Yeah, me
that's
too.
all I'm going to say.
Yep.
Hate to be a tinfoil hat guy there, Yeah.
No, it was very suspect. It was very suspect.
Yeah, it was. Nevertheless, if they want to call it a success is what I call it. This movie is poorly written. There's no journey or depth to her character. There are no stakes in this thing. They destroyed the character of Marvel by changing him to Annette Bening. And the degradation of Nick Fury, the MCU version of Nick Fury, is disgusting. This movie is a horrible wreck.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And also, someone brought up in the chat, which I forgot to mention as well, it's the first Marvel movie that you really don't have to see.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
very good point.
Mm-hmm.
What is your number 22, Michael?
My number 22 is Iron Man 3. Yes.
There we go.
Now, it was a toss-up between Iron Man 3 and Thor: The Dark World, but I chose I gave Iron Man 3 this slot because I'm angry with this movie for a lot of reasons. One, it tricked me anyway in the first 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes, I thought, oh, maybe I've had this movie pegged wrong. Maybe everybody was just really on a high after, all the Avengers films, and that this was the, high hopes and they were dashed. And then as the first 30 minutes elapsed, I suddenly realized, oh no, this is a big pile of manure. And I was like, because I thought for a minute that the movie was going to be kind of compelling. And then all of a sudden it totally went in the wrong place. They've totally messed up the Mandarin. So I have no idea how they're going to unravel that mess in Shang-Chi and all those other films that they say they've got planned where Mandarin is going to come back or something. But I don't know. I keep hearing rumors that they're going to try and, build a merge lane for Mandarin to come back into the MCU. But it's like, guys, you've messed this up so bad in some weird socio-political tap dance that you guys have been doing for clever plotting. I also was annoyed by the fact that it's another Shane Black movie set at Christmas. It's like, dude, get off that horse. Like I and then of course at the very end, the thing that drove me nuts the most about this was at the very end where he's using all these, robots that just kind of come out of nowhere, all these drones and stuff. And I know that in some Iron Man comics, they've had those moments, but in a movie that's only 2 hours and change, it really feels like a turnkey solution for bad writing. It's just kind of like, hey, watch, I'm just going to push these buttons and all these robots are going to show up and they're going to help me and base explosion, you know. And it's like, I really felt like the movie was a disappointing mess of CGI, and it didn't have anything going for it to me. And the beginning of it tricking me into thinking that we were going somewhere and then pulling the rug out from under me made me resent it even more. So
with you big time, and it won't be long before we hear from that one again.
Okay.
My number 22 is Black Panther. This comes almost as much under the heading of disappointing as it does bad. I think this is a bad film, to be honest with you. I know you're not allowed to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. I don't care. Because I see, and the reason why I'm saying that, I have stakes with this character. I've loved this character all my life. He's of course a Jack Kirby creation. Some of the great comics that he is from the early 70s by Don McGregor and things like that. They did mine from a little bit of that. Purple Valkyrie, good to see you, my friend. Love you, Purple. Well, great seeing all you here's popping in. Really appreciate you here. But this film is bad in every respect because it's supposed to. First of all, Chadwick Boseman, rest his soul, is a wonderful casting. I thought he did a wonderful job in Civil War. In this one, he is reduced to a nothing in his own film.
Yep, that's true.
There's no good superhero action. This is an MCU film that's absolutely worthless in terms of an action film. There's very little of it. There's no compelling action. There's filled with lousy CGI. This character shit all over one of the best villains they could have used in Claw and they had a good casting for him as well. And it was really all up. And, listen, T'Challa is one of the smartest men in the Marvel Universe. This would have reduced him into a dunce so they could prop up his annoying little sister. I know they've done that in some later comics, but not the comics I cared about. So his annoying little sister's smarter than him. He's just the body in the suit.
Right.
He has no personality in this film. He has no real arc. He was 10 times better and so much better written in Civil War, which we'll talk about later. Which was a wonderful debut for him. This squandered a great debut of a potentially great character. This movie could have been so good. It just is absolutely. The second time I saw it, I disliked it even more. The first time I was kind of, just getting to see a Black Panther movie was so cool to me, and it was such a disappointment, in my opinion.
Yeah, and also the fact that, and again, all respect to Chadwick Boseman for what he did and tried to do. I'm shocked. I shouldn't say shocked, not anymore, but I'm stunned that they're just going to have another character take on the Black Panther mantle without trying to pull a James Bond and put another actor in the role of T'Challa. I don't understand why, because we haven't had enough screen time with him.
Yeah,
as a character, it's almost like a lot of people have forgotten that the actors. And again, Boseman did a great job, and his death is tragic. But actors are not characters. Characters are characters, and that's why James Bond has lasted for 50 plus years. Is because they've had the bravery to recast him. I would like to see more Black Panther adventures on screen, and we're not going to have that now because of this idea. And again, you know me, I've ruffled feathers by saying, yeah, I love Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones, but I would not be opposed to a recasting of Indy to keep him in the 30s, right? Like, meaning in the 1930s. That's not a popular opinion. But because it worked for James Bond, I think it would work here. And the same thing goes with Black Panther. So they've recast Lara Croft, although all three of those movies were shit. So that's not a good example. But yeah, so,
Yeah, and again, they could do that now, with the right script and the right casting. But again, right now the Marvel's MCU would just focus on the Dora. In fact, I hear the Dora Milaje might even be getting their own show or something like that. Well, no offense to those ladies that play the Dora Milaje. I go to watch a Black Panther film personally. I don't go to watch his sister. I don't go to watch. And someone, I think it was Phantom, made a good point. Phantom Outsider made a pretty good point. This movie turns T'Chaka into a bad guy.
Yeah,
it sullies the name of T'Chaka. They made him act like he was a scumbag all of a sudden.
Yep.
which he wasn't in Civil War. This movie is a disgrace. It's badly directed. It's badly written. It's got a bunch of garbage in it. But what can I tell you? Some people like it. It's fun. What they did to Claw, though, is really just on a geek level. What they did to Claw was a shame.
Oh yeah, wasted villain, totally wasted.
Yeah, Andy Serkis, good casting, and again, so this doesn't come off. One of the big things, if you're making an MCU film and it doesn't feel like a comic book movie, you've got a problem. And this film does not feel like a comic book movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Your number 21.
My number 21 is Thor: The Dark World, and I'll tell you why. It occupies a very special place in the MCU for me, a very dubious accolade. It is the only MCU movie that I fell asleep during. I'm like, we should laugh at that, but at the same time, I wish it was a joke. Like I literally couldn't stay awake. I woke up and there were the credits. It was so boring and overwrought. And I know that the legacy of the Thor comic gets very cosmically mythological and stuff like that at times. I get that, but that movie to me didn't sell. Tim Hayes, I was that bored. I fell asleep during this movie. It doesn't help that Natalie Portman as an actress is notorious for phoning in performances in fantasy films that she keeps getting cast in, even though she doesn't like doing them. She prefers to go do Black Swan and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, then stop signing on the dotted line for these films. And of course, we're going to get her in another Thor film here soon, just like we got her in the Star Wars films, where she admitted she doesn't give these movies her all. She gets bored, and it's like, well, if you don't want to be there, then stop signing up for them.
Yep, sure.
And so that combination, I thought, for this movie was terminal. I thought this movie was just like, you had all these great characters in his entourage, like Sif and everybody, and I felt like they were underused. I felt like the whole thing was just. It was just a convoluted, overwritten mess, and I'll never forgive it for putting me to sleep. I'll never forgive it.
We could be hearing from it again pretty soon. And yes, it's a snoozer, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's you're going to find, once we get further along in this list, we're going downward in more ways than one. In a sense, on this one, that there will be some movies that I even don't like much, but I'll find different things in them that I like here and there. I don't know if Michael does that much, but I know I do it sometimes. But some of these early ones, it's very little.
Yeah.
Which brings me to my number 21. This is Spider-Man: Far From Good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go out and just put this out there, folks. I do not like the MCU take on Spider-Man.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
Indeed. It's just, look, I like Tom Holland fine.
Yeah.
I thought he was certainly, he's more palatable in Civil War and in Infinity War, but so it's not really him. But the two standalone movies are just, look, as I say, I try to be fair because I know a lot of people disagree on these things. So if I can find something to like in a film, even if I don't like it overall, I'll give you that. I'll try to throw it out there for you to say this had this or that going for it. This one, some of the stuff with Mysterio looked pretty cool, but this movie is just this is a crashing bore along the lines of what Michael was talking about with Dark World for me. Mm-hmm. This thing just goes nowhere. I don't give a crap about him and his little friends, Peter and his little friends. The action's not particularly compelling. Nick Fury's a punk in this because we already know he's been ruined. And let's see. It's dealing with a lot of that stupid after blip stuff, which we'll talk about more later, which is bad. You got a character that we all kind of like in Happy Hogan, and they don't even use him right. There's nothing really compelling or interesting about this friggin' movie at all. I think it's terrible. I think it's a terrible film. And not just because I don't like their Iron Spider-Boy take on the character of Spider-Man. This is not Peter Parker, folks. Not the one he's supposed to be.
I want to address Shattered Glass's comment. He says, the MCU is pretty awesome, guys. Don't you think you're being a bit nitpicky? Look, here's the deal. All right? when you've got 200, yeah, exactly. When you get $200 million a movie and you're supposed to have the top A-list talent writing it, producing it, and directing it, and lighting it, and acting in it, and all that stuff, we can also afford to be what you say is nitpicky about these films. Like these films are not sacrosanct.
No.
Yeah.
No, and I would just say to Shattered Glass, like, thanks for being here. I don't know you, Shattered Glass. We appreciate you. And all opinions are welcome. You can disagree with us. What I would say is we're only at the beginning of our list. We're going down. There are plenty of these films that I love that you might not even agree with. I might be being too nice to them, you might think later. So, hear us out if you're so inclined. But I mean, we both believe, Michael and I both believe very strongly in critical thought.
Yes.
For sure, even though we also like to enjoy a film. And if I have something nice to say about a film, even if I don't like it, the film overall, I'll say it. But right now, we're at a stage starting this list where I think these are not very good films.
Well, that's like right here. He's responding, not saying all of it is good, mind you. And it's like, well, I'd be interested to hear what Shattered Glass, what your glass ceiling is for allowing for criticism and not. When do you suddenly say, oh, that's too much criticism? Like, like if you're either you either got to open up the whole field or you got to go like shut it all down. You can't have this nebulous middle ground where nobody knows where the lines are painted on the road. For Mike and I, it's laissez-faire. It's everything is up for total dissection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love some of these films we're going to get to. I just and there's the thing about, by the way, you can totally disagree with us, and that's cool too. We never have a problem with honest disagreement. These are just we're just giving our lists,
Yeah.
So when we appreciate it, we appreciate you, Shattered Glass, and anyone hanging out with us, whether we agree or not. What are we, 20 now?
Yeah.
No, your number 20, sir.
My number 20 is Iron Man 2. And I know that like a lot of people were coming off the high of Iron Man and they couldn't wait for Iron Man 2. I loved Iron Man, the original.
Yes.
My thing is that Iron Man 2, while it had some good things in it, like it had Scarlett Johansson's introduction as Black Widow, and it had War Machine showing up. I guess he was Iron Patriot in the beginning of that.
He was War Machine, I think. Iron
Machine.
Patriot was in 3, I think.
Oh, that's right. Iron Patriot. See, Iron Man 2 and 3 blur together for me.
For good reason.
Yeah. I felt like this movie got away from, in my estimation, experiencing it a lot of the personal side of the Tony Stark thing that made the first film so compelling. It got distracted just like Iron Man 3 did by having bunch of bots at the end. And it's like more bunch of bots. And it's like, can't we just have a focused, fight between him and Whiplash and, have War Machine in there. And I felt like the film was a little vapid is my point. That I hated that part with the suitcase that turned into a suit. It was like, it's a suitcase or whatever. And it's like, like this, no. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Scarlett Johansson, looked great and moved great and everything like that. And Robert Downey Jr. was still entertaining in character, but it didn't save it.
Yeah. Well, again, won't be long before we hear from this one again.
Yep.
As you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my number 20 is Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm going to stay with the MCU because I'm sorry, the MCU take. This is a movie, I guess if I didn't mind how him having this high-tech suit and all this stuff with some of the things that violate what Spider-Man is all about, I might have found it a little more enjoyable. And again, I really liked Michael Keaton in the film. I thought it was a pretty interesting performance for him as Vulture. But this movie is just Spider-Man does not need a suit like that.
No,
that's Iron Spider-Boy.
You should never change the suit. Like, why are they changing the suit? Like, it's that suit is like Superman's suit. If you think that the way you're gonna make Spider-Man or Superman engaging in a film is to change the costume, you've already failed. Like, that's the one thing. Like that's not the answer. And it's not just about that. I found Homecoming to be very forgettable. And though, like you've said about a few of these films on my list, you will be hearing from the Spider-Man films very shortly on my list.
Yeah, indeed. And by the way, Shattered Glass, we appreciate all opinions and thank you for saying those nice words. But yeah, dude, I mean, look, there's no arguing these are successful films. We're just talking about them, their artistic merit or lack thereof.
Guys, I own all of these in my DVD or Blu-ray collection. I own them all. So let's keep it in perspective.
Indeed. Where are we at now? 19, I think. 19, sir. What's your 19?
19. My 19 is Black Panther. And I know we just talked about it, but I wanted to just add one little more dash of something in there. The reason that it wasn't lower on my list is because even though T'Challa becomes, second fiddle in his own movie and all that stuff, I was shocked to kind of sit forward in my chair and appreciate that even though Killmonger's character was, not exactly what he was from the comics by a margin, at least the villain character, they attempted to develop him and his motivations, which I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Like that's nice. That they did that. I hate what they did to Claw. I hate what they did for the movie. Most of it is very CGI forgettable, but I appreciated that. That's why it crawled up a little higher in my list. And also because Boseman did such a great job in Civil War, I probably was giving this movie a little bit more of a mulligan for that. So.
Well, look, dude, I mean, I love the character of Black Panther so much, and I love Chadwick Boseman so much, it kills me to have it that low.
Yeah.
Because that just shows how disappointed I was that he didn't get such a better shot.
Right.
My number 19 is going to shock some people. Are you ready for?
I'm ready.
You might be shocked too, Michael.
Okay.
All right, everyone. This is the controversy. You think the other was a controversial? You are going to be probably shocked at me here.
Okay.
The reason you're going to be shocked is because it's a movie that I watched a ton of times. I own it, of course. I watched it a lot, and there's so many things in it that I love, and yet I'm rating it very low because it did so much damage. And it's called Avengers Endgame.
Ah, yeah.
I know that. Look, I know a lot of people love it. It's irresistible. There are scenes in this film that are wonderful, that are irresistible. But there's so many bad decisions in this movie. Mm-hmm. In my opinion.
Yep.
Fat Thor would maybe a cute one-off joke, but Hemsworth and the Russos carried it too far, and it was not funny after a while. I was like, oh God, everything's got to be jokey and crappy. What they did, killing Tony Stark, I'm not big on, but if you're going to do something like that for some closure, it might not be so bad if you don't completely and utterly destroy the character of Captain America, which you did at the end of this film. Steve Rogers would never quit. You'll never convince me of that. That ending, the big ending fight is a lot of fun to watch. It has scenes that I can watch over and over again to this day. This make me happy and scream like a child. Meaning, of course, you know what I'm talking about. Cap using the hammer, Cap fire beating the crap out of Thanos. But I'm rating it low because there were too many bad decisions, and it ended this universe on a terrible note, in my opinion. And the whole 5 years later crap was terrible writing that has written them into a garbage corner. That again, they should call this film Avengers Bad Decision, because this film is filled with unbelievably moronic decisions, story-wise, narrative-wise, that are the reason why the MCU is in tatters and will never be repaired.
Yeah,
so I'm shocking people, I'm sure, but I hope I'm not shocking anyone too bad.
You're not shocking me. I mean, me. I roll with it. I roll with most of it. So, and you're right. This movie has a lot of problems. I rolled my eyes big time when they were like, yeah, time travel doesn't work the way it does in Back to the Future. Oh, you mean you just didn't want to write rules for it? Gotcha. All right. Way to just be sloppy. Got it. Okay. We can do whatever we want now. It's like, oh, jeez. Yeah. So I feel you on that.
Oh, my God. Yeah. So then where are we? 18?
18.
I've been watching that. Oh, yeah. 18, sir. What is your number 18?
My 18 is Incredible Hulk.
Ah,
I know. I
no,
know.
no, I got it.
I
I gotta
look.
get to it. I gotta get to it.
Yeah, I know. It's probably higher up on everybody's list except mine. The thing is that I know they say that this movie is officially part of the MCU, and it's a redo off the lackluster Ang Lee version.
Yes.
And the Ang Lee version is lackluster.
Oh, you're so kind.
Yeah. However, I don't find this movie all that much improved. I don't think this movie is the huge improvement that it is, and I also don't think this movie slots in at all with the MCU at large. I feel like it's an outlier. It's a black sheep. It just kind of sits out there, and they're like, well, no, it's part of the MCU, and I'm like, for better or worse, it's not. And as a standalone film, I found it to be rather. I own it. I own all 23 of these movies. I
Mm-hmm.
found it to be rather forgettable, and I also felt like the special effects were pretty dodgy. When I watched it in 4K, and I was like, wow, these effects that Hulk kind of seems like I don't know. There are times where he looks like a gummy bear, like on camera. There's just something wrong there, and but again, maybe I'm the type of person that really likes the classic Incredible Hulk comics, and I know that they tried to infuse some of that into this movie,
Mm-hmm.
but because Hollywood is not good at lone anti-hero films about monsters, at least their track record's not that good. I think the last good one they did was the one with Boris Karloff in 1933. But what I mean by that is, because they can't handle it that way, the only time I feel like the Hulk has been successful in the MCU has been when he's part of the ensemble, and he has other people to play off of. And again, I know in the comics he works on his own just fine. I'm a big fan of him in the comics, the classic comics.
Yes.
But in the MCU as it stands, the ending, man, with like, they almost created like a hint that there was going to be this other villain or whatever, and then that went nowhere. And I just feel like this movie just hangs out there like a booger that wasn't fully picked. Like it just kind of. So yeah.
I got you, man. Nicely said that. My 18 is Iron Man 3. Audience nothing. Oh my god, dude! From the PTS crap that he had I really hated from get go all that crap about him whining about his what happened to him in the previous film, The Avengers, with this going through the wormhole type thingy. Mm-hmm. That stuff really got on my nerves quickly. We go from the previous film with them barely touching on his demon with the bottle and his problem with his palladium in his chest to another. Your second film in a row when there's something wrong with Tony physically and mentally. I'm sick of that crap. That was a and then it's got, these are comic book movies, folks. You can put some goofy shit in there and I will excuse it and go, yeah. But out and outright stupidity, such as, for example, superhero goes and makes a bold statement on television. Here's my address, come attack me. And then said superhero is not in his friggin' armor, because if I'm going to goad a bunch of villains to come attack me, then you had all that whole phony drama scene of them blowing up his house and him barely getting the armor in time. If you're going to do that, Tony, you need to be wearing your friggin' armor, because if he had been wearing his armor and had it at the ready, that helicopter approaching, first of all, why didn't he detect it? Coming way out. Why doesn't he have security to say, you just announced yourself to the world? There's a helicopter coming out. Iron Man could go take care of it in about 2 seconds. In fact, he might not even need to do that with the security. But no, we have to have a big, dumbass, drawn-out fight where he barely gets his suit, which, of course, was necessary for a phony narrative to facilitate the rest of the drama of the film, by to get him stuck out there without his costume, his armor. And none of it made any sense. It was contrivance writing 101. It was absolutely moronic. And it got worse from there. This is a bad film, folks. Wow, not just what you did to Mandarin. I got news for you. Extremis is not a compelling Iron Man villain.
No, he's not. He really isn't.
He's dull. So you have a film. We don't get Mandarin, and then you don't even have a backup villain that's any good. It's trash. This movie is terrible. It's sorry.
No, it really is terrible.
Bad
I mean, you were generous to put it as high in the list as you did. I had it as my 22nd film. So, there's no love lost between me and this movie for sure.
Julia too. No. Mark C passed away recently. What is it about? Mark C was a very dear friend of mine, and I've named my comic book show on Monday nights, Monday Night Mark C Comic Book Talk. His family, of course, comes here sometimes. I'm friends with them. And what the F is going on? Which Mark C? I'm talking about a friend of mine who passed away a couple of months ago, who was a part of this show. And the show's named after him. So Julia D2, I'm not sure why you're pissed at that. I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm going to move on. But what the F is going on with? So that's the explanation. I'm really not sure what you're saying. But we're friend. He was a very good friend of mine, and he was friends with a lot of channels here. So sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to derail that.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You got to remember the stuff that I've dealt with in both the chat and on social media over the last few years. Nothing phases me anymore. So if you've got to deal with something, you go right ahead. I'm just going to be right here, just being glad that no one's accusing me of impersonating Australian people. So
not so far. It was fine as young, right? So so Julie, no offense, but this is a friend of mine we're talking about here. So yeah. Anyway, we'll get back onto it. I hope that clears it up for everyone though. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Let's see, what are we at? 17? You're number 17. So.
Yep. My number 17 is Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, the reason that it got this high in the listing was because, as I've told you before, I like Tom Holland in the role. I don't like the situations they put him in. I don't like the structure around him. Like you, I feel like they really did mishandle this whole. Not for Civil War was fine. In Civil War, it was fine, but
Mike, I just want to say something to
sure.
you. So I'm sorry, Julia. Okay, thank you, dear. I did not know that. Yes, no problem at all. Again, it's not. Orville Nation, hi, good to see you. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. So I'm sorry about that, Mike. I just
you're fine.
Clear that up so no one has a misunderstanding that I'm not angry with Julia or anything like that. I just wanted to say thank her for clarifying that. We're straightening that out. So I'm sorry, Michael.
No, it's fine. I'd rather talk about anything than Spider-Man Far From Home.
Continue, though, buddy. I'm sorry.
No, I was simply saying that, and you're going to find this with my attitude with these, is that I feel like they wouldn't have had as much of a problem bringing Spider-Man in if they'd done it differently. I know they wanted to get away from the constant reboots of the death of Uncle Ben that we'd been subjected to, and I thought that was a wise policy, but they had this beautiful alternative sitting right in front of them, and they had almost put the chess pieces in place to do it, and then they just ignored it. And that was by directly involving Tony Stark in Spider-Man's origin.
Yes.
Look, unlike a lot of people, I saw the potential there for it, and I was like, oh, please do this. And then Marvel, of course, was like, no, we're not that smart. And I'm like, because what I wanted to see was, I was desperately hoping for this. I wanted them to say, well, we've already done Spider-Man and Uncle Ben and Aunt May twice in movies. This time we're bringing in Tony Stark, and we're going to do this where he sets them up, and it's Spider-Man, Iceman, and Firestar after the first film. And I was like, that'd have been so great. Like, what a great alternative that also harkens back to Marvel history. That's because it was episodic television. It would have been perfect for, Spider-Man Part 2, which would have been this film. They're not doing it in Spider-Man Part 3, which I'm not going to go see. I thought, man, you guys have literally put us on the cusp of doing this, and then you whiffed. So yeah, probably these films are a little higher up because of, Tom Holland, Michael Keaton, and sheer hope. But that's about it. So
yeah, it's again, great idea to have Mysterio, but this, of course, what they handled him. And, the casting was fine. I guess he looked okay in some instances, I suppose. And there was some kerfluffle early on about somehow they couldn't because of some rights issues, they couldn't use Sandman or Hydro Man, so they just turn them into these elemental characters who were very from an old obscure Defenders comic or what have you. And it was just a mess, and it was a bore, in my opinion. So
yeah.
What was that? 17 was it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my 17 is one that you've already mentioned, Thor: The Dork World. So we need not, we should give the attention this movie deserves. You watch it, then you wake up and you go, did I watch something? If I'm to say anything about it, what a waste of Christopher Eccleston, by the way. Wasting a Doctor Who as a villain. Some of the stuff between Thor and Loki was really okay, but this is just kind of some of the action later maybe is okay, but there's really nothing to recommend this thing. It's kind of just, you walk in, you walk out, and if someone said, did you see Thor: The Dark World? You said, sure, I did just watch it. Well, what was it about? About 2 hours?
Yeah, it was about 2 hours. You want to go get waffles? Like, it was like, I mean, it was such a mess. And I, again, when I say mess, I don't mean a mess like Iron Man 3 was a mess. I mean a mess like they really overthought this and thought that it had real gravitas and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm sorry. I'm not going to put a lot of emotional stake in these ice elves or whatever they are. I just don't give a shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. 16 for you, sir.
16 for me is Spider-Man Homecoming. I put my Spider-Man films back to back because they just kind of occupy this place of, I saw it. Tom Holland was funny, and some things happened, and now these are basically just like placeholders until the next Avengers film.
Yes.
I didn't like the changes to the costume. I did not hate Tom Holland. I thought he did an admirable job. I was glad he's nowhere near as weepy as Tobey Maguire was. Thank God. But I feel like because of all that, and because of much like with Black Panther, what we saw in Civil War of Spider-Man was so enjoyable. I feel like just like with Black Panther, I feel like his character has been undermined and wasted in these actual films. Was his dynamic with Michael Keaton good? Yes, but Michael Keaton's a stellar performer, and he can polish a turd every now and then. And again, I own these movies because I want the whole sequence of events. But is it going to be the movie I run to throw in the player to watch if I want to watch a Marvel movie? No, it's not. Nope. So I had to put it lower on the list. But keep in mind, everybody who loves the Spider-Man films in the MCU, these films are not number 23 and 22. So
there you go. There you go. Yeah, because even this film has some entertaining bits. It just doesn't, again, especially Keaton's a standout. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm with you big time. Where are we at now? My number 16 is, I hope I don't fall asleep saying this title, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm kidding about the sleeping part. This movie, I really don't think it's that so much terrible. It should be called The Wasp. And there's Ant-Man, by the way, if you guys care. You talked about forgettable. This one kind of falls under there for me. Okay. I really like Paul Rudd a lot, and I like Evangeline Lilly, by the way.
Yeah. Oh no, I was just gonna say this is one of those ones where it looks like we're gonna mirror image its placement in our list, and I know I'm in the minority on this, so I'll wait until it pops up in my list too.
Okay.
But
sure.
But I totally get why people don't like this movie. Like, I totally get why a lot of people put it low on the list. I've heard some people say they wanted to turn it into toilet paper and use it in the bathroom like it's intended. And I'm like, wow, that's some hate. But I actually walked away like really having fun with this movie. So, but again, I'm not like everybody's wrong. Like, I get why this movie has caused the rift it's caused.
Oh, no, look, I should have pointed out, we're getting to a stage of these films where I don't have a real hatred. I'm criticizing them now. Like a couple of those early ones, I'll tell you, I really dislike or despise. I don't hate this one. We're not in that area right now where there's anything that I hate at all.
Oh, no, you're not in that area on your list, but I've heard people like literally put this at the bottom below Captain Marvel.
Right. Oh yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah.
No, oh no, and I was just poking fun at it. I mean, because I really like Paul Rudd a lot. This movie is funny and it's got some interesting stuff. And like I say, I was kind of poking fun at it being boring. I'm not saying that. I just think it should have been called The Wasp. And then there's Ant-Man. It has entertaining elements to it, even though it was in a reduced role, if you'll pardon the pun. And it's not even a pun. It doesn't even make sense. Seeing Bill Foster in it, played by Lawrence Fishburne, sorry, was kind of cool. I don't hate it or anything like that. I forgot. I probably should have set this up. We're not in an era. This whole movie, this whole list of mine, and I know Michael's isn't about bashing. That we're just giving our honest opinions of them. And now we're getting to a point because I like the MCU for the most part. I don't dislike this movie. I just thought I had some problems with it. I didn't think it was particularly a standout.
Right.
Just me though.
Yep.
And your number, where are we at now? Are we at, was that 15? Are we at 15 now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
15, sir.
Yeah, mine is Endgame.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Now, again, I recognize all of the problems with Endgame, and I don't discount them. That's why this thing is farther down on the list. Don't like the fact that, Captain Marvel has to show up. Don't like the whole, somehow on a battlefield of millions of people, suddenly all of the main female heroes converge at the same time to do a useless action scene. Like, that was really, like, I hate to use that term cringe, but it really was cringe. I didn't like the way they killed Black Widow. Like, there were a lot of issues I have. I really hated the fact that they said, oh, well, there's no way we can really affect the time-space continuum because it'll just create different realities. Ha ha! And it's like, that just confuses everything even further. But what I did like about this movie, and this is going to possibly piss a lot of people off, but here's the thing. I see the MCU as its own universe, much like when Marvel did Unlimited, and then they did, they had their classic comics before that. So I get that there's a latitude where I forgive certain things in the MCU because they're trying to establish their own continuity. I don't forgive huge breaches of character origins and things like that. But certain dynamics, I'm okay with them sort of shuffling some pieces around. And in the case of Endgame, I like the fact that they paid off a lot of things that were set up in the other MCU films. They were minor things, but like, I enjoyed Captain America picking up the hammer because that was a major moment, a memorable character moment in Ultron that they paid off and stuff like that. So there were and also I love the whole on your left and the, all of his friends showing up. And I like the fact that, Peggy and him are together at the end, even though it's totally not explainable. I did not like what they did to Thor. I did not like seeing Iron Man die, all that kind of stuff. But overall, I gave this movie a middle of the list slot because there was just as much about it as I liked as the stuff I didn't like. Now, since I've owned it on 4K, have I actually sat down and watched it? No. So there's that.
I went 5 times to the theater, and I want to be madly in love with this film, and there's so many things I do love in it that are wonderful, that are entertaining. It's just I put it so low because of the damage it did. It's all the really, like I said, the bad decisions they made with the characters and with the universe going forward. It's a very entertaining film, especially if you've watched all the, and it's one thing, I guess, if you just come out of nowhere, but if you watch the films, then you can't help but have it tug your heartstrings in some ways because these characters have been so, for over a decade, they've been, these characters, they built this universe. I just didn't like the way they ended it, but it doesn't mean the film, again, I don't consider it bad. Remember, we're at a point in our list now where I'm not saying any of these films are bad. I think those first few are bad. This one just really bothers me in a lot of ways while being entertaining at the same time. So, I'm very conflicted on it.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to describe it for sure. Yeah,
I'm very conflicted on this movie.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Yeah, and well, a lot of them, where are we bees now? We are at 14, right?
I think
14.
so. Unless you have to name
Oh,
your
no.
yeah.
Oh, 15. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all
Jumped
right.
ahead. My number 15 is Thor Ragnarok, folks.
Ah.
In a sense, this is very similar to Endgame for me.
Uh-huh.
Lots of really fun, entertaining stuff.
Yep.
Some nice Kirby tributes.
Yep.
And yet full of a lot of unnecessary, stupid humor, like the opening when Thor's hanging from the chain in front of Sirta and he's making all these stupid jokes and spinning around. A lot of really great stuff in this film, but it's not quite as high as it should be because of some of the terrible casting of Valkyrie, in my opinion. The degradation of the Thor character. You can destroy Mjolnir only if you actually bring it back later, which they don't. This some of the revisionist crap in there about like you're not the god of hammers. You can just use your powers without him and stuff like that. That's not Thor. That doesn't fit.
Right.
Gouging his eye out, and making him a clown. This is the first film. Look, the other films before this, even Dark World, whether you like Dark World or not, it doesn't make Thor a clown. This is the beginning of Thor being made into a clown. And I don't like that. It's a fun movie. So the fight with Hulk in the arena is fantastic. Some of the character interaction between Thor and Hulk are fun. Hela is really great. Kate Blanchett is great as the villain. Even some of the stuff at the beginning when we can see Doctor Strange. So there's a lot of things to really like in this film. And I do like it. But there are a lot of things that aggravate me that are not really good for the character. And this set the tone for Thor being a clown. And I don't like it. That aspect of it. I like the movie fine, but it would be higher if it didn't do some of those things. Just me. Just me on that. A lot of people really like the movie, and deservedly so. It's very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about that in my so. Anyway, 14, bud.
My 14 is Doctor Strange. And I want to make it very clear. We're like Mike just said, we're getting into the area of the list where these movies are very likable. So now it's a matter of, well, how do I determine where these things drop? Doctor Strange, I really, really liked this movie. And I really especially liked the first half. The only reason I say first half and not the second half, didn't dislike the second half, okay? I freely admit I'm not smart enough to completely understand the second half.
Dude, you're the smartest guy I know.
But I don't plug in always to the cosmic stuff. But the first half of this movie was one of the freshest Marvel movie beginning starts, whatever you want to call it, in a long time. All the stuff with him as an arrogant surgeon, getting in that car wreck. I love all the stuff of him finally, not completely, but losing a lot of his ego, just sitting on that doorstep, hoping that, the guru will finally let him in and all that kind of stuff. I loved all that stuff about it. I loved the guy that ran the library. There were a lot of fresh characters in this and everything like that. The last half of the movie is not bad. I was awake the whole time, unlike Thor: The Dark World. I was engaged. I just was quite not. I was like, what's going on? What magic is he using? Wait, what spell? How did you do? Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm enjoying it. So I'll just ride with it because I'm dumb. But I really appreciated this film. And the only reason that I didn't rate it higher was because the last half confused the hell out of me. So I just put it a little lower. So.
No, I got you. I really do understand it because my next one is one that should have been a lot lower, to be honest, because you had it a lot lower than me. And that is, of course, Iron Man 2 Electric Boogaloo. And I've hated this movie for a long time, but I've softened on it a little bit to where I don't quite hate it. I hate what they did with Ivan Vanko, turning him into an amalgamation of, he has the name of the Crimson Dynamo, a pretty top-notch Iron Man villain, and yet the MO mostly of sort of a whiplash, and it kind of even, it's dumb. And Mickey Rourke is he gives what I call an absolutely incoherent and horrible performance. I can't look at him in this film and I want to throw up every time I see him.
Right.
He makes me sick. He's terrible. I think some of the stuff with Tony himself, the characterization there is kind of what redeems it a little bit for me, even though some of it's over the top. Some of the stuff that goes on with Black Widow is probably higher for me just because we get some actual decent stuff with introducing Black Widow.
Yep.
And some of the different characteristics of the film. I don't think it's quite as bad as 3, but it could be interchangeable with some of these last ones. Arguably, it's probably not a better film than the last couple of ones we were talking about. But so really, it could be easily knocked back 2 or 3 or 4 notches on this list. It doesn't. I don't know. I guess it aged better than I thought because after watching it, after many years of not watching it, if it makes any sense, I watched it again, and I just didn't like it that much. But I liked him. I still like it. I hate the crap at the racetrack. That's bad. But I like the stuff when we're actually with Tony Stark and we're actually with some of the stuff dealing with his characterization. And I guess that's what maybe separates it a little bit more than I used to really hate it more. It might have been like time to bottom 3 or 4 at one point, but it moved up a little because I've watched it recently. It's still not a very good film by any stretch of the imagination, though.
Right. Yeah.
So it could easily be lower, but I don't know what's going on. I don't know. Maybe I got soft on it, man. So, what is your number 13, sir?
Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Let
me find you. There we go.
The reason that Ant-Man isn't rated higher. I love Paul Rudd. I love his performance. I like everybody in the movie for the most part. The problem I have with this film, and it's the problem that keeps it lower on the list, is that it is a carbon copy plot of the first Iron Man. Aside from the powers. It's about one guy who makes a suit and then the other dude steals the suit and is going to use the suit for bad ends, and that guy is bald. So it's evil bald Jeff Bridges and evil bald whatever this guy is. And then he uses the technology to make his own suit, and then they fight in the 2 suits. And that's the movie. And it's like, wow, guys, you aped your own plot for this film. And again, I know that superhero movies only have so many directions to go, whatever it is. I don't hate Ant-Man as a movie. Like, I find it very watchable. I like the humor. I like Paul Rudd's character. I love Michael Douglas in it, all that stuff. I just recognize that it is a unoriginal script ganked from their own series. And that puts it lower on the list objectively for me. So
no, I totally get it. I mean, it could have used a stronger villain. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a second, I guess, pretty soon. That was 13, right? I'm always bad about getting the number. My number 13 is The Incredible Hulk. I suppose I liked it a little bit better than you. Not a lot, but I mean, I really hated the Ang Lee film.
Yeah.
Good God. I thought this one is at least more like it. You actually get something of instead of this really weird, confused dreamscape of a film, you just get a standard, Hulk story that does sort of resemble comics, and even in some ways they were kind of slightly resembling the old TV series. So there are like a few nods to it. Norton's okay as Banner. I mean, I don't know. He's all right. He's good enough in it. I mean, it's fine that they changed him to Ruffalo later. I don't mind that either. But you get at least about 3 decent Hulk outs with some good action. What you were talking about with the visuals, I haven't seen that on the 4K or anything like that. And oddly enough, this is the only one that's not on that Disney Plus app. I checked just to see, and I guess it's because of the Universal rights and stuff with it or something.
Yeah, which is why I've always wondered why they kept it in the MCU officially anyway, because they were going to have this issue. It's like, right. Guys, yeah.
But they did reference it.
Yes.
In there, so yes. Missed opportunity big time. It was good to have the Abomination. Didn't really like the way he looked. But they set up the leader, Samuel Stearns, and then they never used him again in the MCU. The MCU is really has a lot of problems with its villains, to be honest.
Yeah,
and that's one of them. But overall, I found it to be a relatively enjoyable, but nothing like super to write home about type of thing either. Just sort of an okay, fairly decent film.
Exactly. Yep, yeah. For sure.
Eric K., good to see you. Right, yo, brother. Jack's mama. Good to see you, Jack's mama. Love you. That is, of course, Jack's mama is part of the family of the great Mark C. So good to see you. Let's see here. Where are we at now, bud? 12?
Yes.
Okay. 12. Go ahead.
My 12 is The Avengers.
Let's see. Okay, nope.
And I know people are like, how come that's not number 2? Or how come that's not number 1? Or how come, I know a lot of people love the first Avengers movie. That's Age of Ultron. I'm talking about the first one.
I know I switched it back.
I'm sorry. I'm watching I'm watching it on YouTube. So
okay.
I'm watching this, so there's a delay. Sorry about that. My fault. My fault.
No, my bad. I'm the one that messed it up. There you go.
No. I didn't realize if I was watching it over on StreamYard, I would have seen it in real time, and then I would have been like, oh. Here's my thing with this movie. I really, really didn't like this movie when I saw it in the theater originally. And I know that's shocking. But as Mike can tell you, I went and revisited it in the lead up to Civil War. And I wanted to catch up because I really got invested in the MCU finally after Winter Soldier. And when I rewatched it, I was like, okay, here's what I'm going to give it. The stuff that I didn't like about it, I still don't like about it. The stuff that I did like about it, I still like about it. So the movie's holding firm. It's not getting worse, is what I'm saying. And as the characters become more developed in their subsequent films, it informs the experience that I had with that first movie. Mm-hmm. So I started to actually enjoy it more. This will not help my position with the audience, but if I had not seen those films, if those films had not come out and built up those characters more, when I saw this movie in 2012, I wanted to throw it right. It might have landed above Iron Man 2 or something like that. Like I really thought, because the plot was so paper thin. It was like, oh, they stole this cube and we got to get the cube, but we're not actually going to look for the cube. We're going to spend over half the movie on a helicarrier bitching at one another and not actually looking for said cube. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like this, is this whole movie just going to take place on this flying G.I. Joe aircraft carrier? Like it was just like, again. And so it took me watching other films that came after it to finally get plugged into some of these characters and enjoy their dynamics. So then when I went back and watched it, I certainly don't hate it anymore. I've watched it several times, and it's just fine. Do I still think the plot is thin? Yes, I do. Do I like the characters in it and what they're doing and saying and the actions? Yes, I do. So that's why it's right in the middle of the list.
Gotcha.
There you go. Yeah.
There you go. Makes sense, man. Makes sense. Yep. It'll be a while before we hear from it again. You could probably guess that.
Yeah.
What is that? 12. Okay, my number 12 has one simple little word for the title. That's Thor. It took me a couple of years to warm up to this film, really. When I first saw it in the theater, I remember liking about half of it and having some kind of thinking that the second act was not quite, or the second half was not quite all it could have been. Over the years, I've kind of changed on that a little bit. I think this film is a pretty decent origin story for Thor. This was, again, I guess it's because there's so much water under the bridge now. Mm-hmm. This film is very respectful to the character, unlike things that are done later. But he's, like as I mentioned earlier, he's a clown. He's not a clown in this. This is a good redemption story. It's a decent origin telling story. It's not a great film, but it was enough to introduce the character pretty well, I thought. So I do like it. And again, I don't think it's as you can see, it's kind of a little bit past middle of the pack there for me. So I really enjoy it. I watched it again. Actually, I watched it again last night because it's been a while since I've seen it. Maybe it's just getting older, a little more well disposed towards it, I suppose. But all in all, it's certainly not a perfect film, but I found it to be a fairly good start for the character and intro into the MCU, a good building block for the MCU, I guess I should say.
Yeah, for sure.
So that would be my number, but I was 12. Your number 11, sir.
Captain America, the First Avenger. So yeah, my issue with Captain America, which, and you know how much I love Cap. I so very much wanted this movie to be higher up on the list, but as you and I have talked in the past, I walked away from this movie literally torn down the middle because I absolutely loved the first half of this movie. Everything involving him as you know, pre-serum Steve Rogers, everything involving the 1940s, everything involving him getting to know Peggy, everything involving his frustration with being in the USO show, and then the rescue of Bucky and the rest of the commandos. Awesome. It was just very, very, very well done. It was perfectly done. All of his training in boot camp and getting the serum and all that stuff is great. Now, let's jump to the other part that I really like at the very end. All of his interactions with Red Skull and the fight on the flying wing and the ending is great. The part that kills it for me is right after, and that's why it's not higher in the list, right after he saves Bucky and round the time he's saving Bucky, I was getting concerned. And Mike, you've heard me say this before.
Yes.
I was like, why is he fighting spacemen? Why is he not fighting actual Germans from World War II like he did in the comics?
Yeah.
He's fighting dudes with laser guns, and they look like they've been outfitted by Destro, like from G.I. Joe. What is going on? And then, right as I came to that realization, the whole movie descended into a montage for like 20 minutes. There was no mission. It was just montage. And, you know, my friend who runs the YouTube channel, Matt Movie 611, kind of, you know, yes, you can, John Peters. You can show that if Hollywood had some balls. You could show that. You could show Nazis, for God's sake.
They used to.
My friend Matt Movie 611, he talked about how, you know, the reasons behind the montage, and from his perspective, like, he's had a very thoughtful review of it, which I would highly recommend anybody go check out. And so I really liked his take on it, but I still don't think it works in the movie. I feel like that montage is cheap, and I wanted to see a mission like Where Eagles Dare. Now that he's Captain America, I want to see a mission, and I think the flying wing should have been the one Hydra element. It was the one thing that Red Skull had developed with the Tesseract, and that was the thing. If you've already got laser guns and pulse rifles and laser tanks and all that kind of stuff, then they've already won the war at that point. It's like, really? Like, that it was such a cheap cop-out, similar to how they moved Wonder Woman to World War I. They backed her up to World War I.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, really? These characters have relevance because they faced off against these forces. What are we talking about here? So yeah, that's the reason why this movie is lower on the list. And dude, I have this poster that you're showing hanging in my studio.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
Because it's an original double-sided. I absolutely love. I want to love this movie, and the things about this movie I really, really love. But the parts that cop out, they cop out so badly, and they hobble the mythology so blatantly and cowardly that I can't rate this movie higher. I just can't. So, and it's disappointing to me. I do not relish my issues with this movie. I wish I could wake up tomorrow and somebody just fan edited it the way I want it. But that's not the case. So
I got you, dude. Absolutely. That was 11. Was it 11? 11, right? Okay. Yeah. Well, we've already talked about my 11. My 11 is Ant-Man, or as Garrett Morris would say, I is Ant-Man. Love that cameo by him, by the way. Mm-hmm. That was fantastic. Fun movie. I think that's I cannot agree more that this movie really lacked a solid or a compelling villain, which hurts it a little bit. And my problem is, coming from a geeky standpoint, folks, as a comic book geek, I love the Hank Pym Ant-Man. I'm okay with Scott Lang, but I really hate that the MCU, and it kind of harkens back to a movie that we've already talked about, that you just talked about in the Avengers. Or no, one we haven't talked about yet, a different Avengers. So I'm sorry. Hank Pym being kind of bum rushed out, where you just mentioned that he was Ant-Man for a brief second, and you're handing it all down to Scott Lang.
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like Hank Pym not being responsible for Ultron either, but that's another story.
Right, and that is an odd choice for sure. It's a very odd choice for them to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, they just should have stuck with it that way. You should have stuck with it from comics. That said, I really like Paul Rudd. This is a fun, kind of a silly heist movie. There's nothing wrong with the MCU having some of the lighthearted films that just are for that. Ant-Man films are both kind of that way. Yep. So, yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about it other than it was a lot of fun. And I just love the fact that Garrett Morris made a cameo, who played Ant-Man on Saturday Night Live a long time ago, everyone, by the way. So, let's see here. Where are we at? We're at number, are we at 10 now?
I think so.
Oh, we're in the top 10, folks. What is your number 10, sir?
Thor, the original. And I rewatched this movie recently, kind of like you did. And I hadn't seen it in a while. And at the time that I watched it, I thought it was, pretty entertaining. I watched it and Captain America within days of one another on like DVD or something. And Captain America was at the time the bigger disappointment. And while I have since rewatched Captain America many, many times trying to reconcile it because I love the character so much, and it has somewhat redeemed itself in my eyes. When I went back and watched Thor for only the second time, it's still edged out over Captain America First Avenger. And I was like, oh, this movie's fun. It's got some great humor in it. It's got some good action, and it's got great moments. And Natalie Portman in this film is not phoning it in like she does in Dark World. I say not phoning it in. She's not phoning it in most of the time. I found myself very much enjoying this movie. So that's why it's right there, number 10. I think the only issue that I have with this film, and it's not really an issue, is the reason it stays lower on the list is because it's an early film that's not as epic as some of the later ones are. But that's, again, they were finding their sea legs with these superhero movies at the time. So I don't hold that against it. But it just means that the movie is very focused in that one desert town and, all that kind of stuff. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And again, I don't know what it is, but I think the first couple of viewings or whatever, I wasn't really happy with some of the stuff after he got to Earth, but I like it a lot better now. And so, yeah.
Tim Hayes, phoning it in means that an actor isn't trying. An actor just shows up on set, says the lines, and then goes home. They're not working on their performance. And that's what Natalie Portman does a lot of the time. So
let's see here. Yes. My number 10 is it is where I'm gonna find it. Oh, there it is Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, yeah.
I just watched it today. It's for the first time in a while. Mm-hmm. I have kind of a strange outlook on these Guardians of the Galaxy film. I think that many of they're very popular. With good reason. They're highly entertaining films. I like them. But I do understand. I have some friends of mine who think that they go a little too far with the James Gunn potty humor crap.
Yeah.
You could take some of that out of it. Mm-hmm. I do love the music, of course. You can, but they're still highly entertaining. I think these characters, again, it's kind of strange. They are a bit of almost a square peg in a round hole when it comes to the MCU because of the way they talk and the way they act. Sometimes it even kind of leaked over into one of the other films they were in that we'll talk about later. But a fun film is a fun film. A good, entertaining film is still, and I think these are solid fun. And really, once they stray into a little seriousness here and there, but it's tainted with a lot of goofiness. Most of it works. Most of the humor works. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily for me, but on balance, this is my top 10 for a reason. This movie has some really highly entertaining bits, Really high entertaining scenes in this film, and of course, I love the music.
Yep. And you won't have to change that spot because we have Guardians 2 in the same spot. So,
that was my 10. This is your. That was you were.
Oh, so it's my 9 then. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, but still, I've changed the picture there. So go for it.
Yeah. You ever had a movie where you enjoyed it so much, but for one moment, and the moment is so infuriating that you get angrier with that than you do with a film that's uniformly bad, because you just wish that you could fan edit that one part out and have your own special copy, but you can't. And so it's always there. That's this movie for me. Like I hate the Pac-Man gag at the end.
Oh, I knew you would. I think you mentioned that before.
I hate it. I hate it. It destroys this film's build. It is so self-indulgent. It's like you just want to reach through the internet and just smack James Gunn around. like what were you thinking? But not to focus on that too much. I want to set up the fact that from here on out, everybody's going to start seeing that my list is going to reflect something about my attitude towards these Marvel films at this stage, which is I'd suffered through Iron Man 2 and 3. I'd suffered through the Incredible Hulk by this point. I can't remember if I'd suffered through Homecoming already. I can't remember how they fell in the pecking order of production. But I was at a point where I was like, okay, look, at this stage, just make me laugh. Like I can't put up with all this dark world pretentiousness anymore. You guys are doing this stuff, inconsistently. Yeah, you started out on a high note with Iron Man, and Thor wasn't bad, and half of Captain America was pretty good, but now you guys are fumbling big time with this stuff, and it's like I would rather see, a talking raccoon, mess with people and all that kind of stuff. So I was kind of at that point where I'm okay with these comic book movies making me laugh if they want to. I like serious stuff, and you'll see a few more serious ones here in my list for their seriousness. But I'm really not minding when humor is done well and it's fun. So that's one of the reasons I really love this film is for Drax and Rocket and Yondu.
Oh, so, yeah. Seeing some of the stuff with Yondu and Rocket are priceless.
Yes. Awesome stuff. Yep.
Yeah. And I love Kurt Russell, but they kind of I wasn't all that sanguine about the way they changed Ego a little bit, but that's comic geek crap. So,
Yep.
Still, he's great. And, so, yeah, it was very entertaining. Very entertaining film.
Very entertaining movie. Yep.
And so now we're on, what are we?
Well, it'll be your number 9.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. By number 9, all we have to do is to take the 2 off, and we'll have Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right. Yep.
Again, this was a big surprise to me. I have a good friend of mine. I always kind of bring this up when I'm talking about this film and the other one, really. He's a big fan. See, when they first announced this thing, Michael, I was thinking I defaulted to the original group of Guardians of the Galaxy, not this group. And for those who don't know, without put too fine a point on it, that's Vance Astro and Charlie 29 and Martin X and the Yondu being the only one there, and later ones being Starhawk and what have you. And then later, of course, you have this group, which is fine. This is in the late 2000s or whatever. I didn't read that run. I was not really into it. I like Star-Lord from other comics, from the 70s and stuff like that. Eventually they put him in with this group and they changed this group up. All fine and good. Nothing against it. But I didn't really care about this group that much going in. And a friend of mine who does like it a lot hates the Chris Pratt characterization of Star-Lord. His quote, he says Star-Lord is, I'm saying this part. Star-Lord basically in the comic was kind of a no-nonsense space cop. In this, as to quote my friend, he's a horny man-child. And he doesn't like that. Stuff like dance off, bro, with a dance off with Ronin and all that kind of crap. He thinks it goes too far. He thinks all the toilet humor and the cursing and all that stuff. He just doesn't like that. And I can respect that. But facts are facts. most people really, really enjoy these films. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this movie is pure fun. I love the use of the music that he uses. I've listened to that soundtrack over and over again. It is irresistible fun to me. So sure, he's not the Star-Lord from the comics. Drax is not. I mean, a lot of them, but the fact that you made a film and you had the guts to try film. No one really knew this property outside of comic book geeks, and you had a talking raccoon and a talking tree, and it worked.
Yep.
That's pretty astounding. And they are highly entertaining films, in my opinion.
Yes, they very much are. I mean, I didn't really know much about Guardians of the Galaxy because even though I read comics as a kid, I wasn't all in on the DC and Marvel universes. Like I collected Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Catwoman, things like that. But I didn't collect any of the team books, except for an occasional special. So I didn't know much about Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd literally only heard of them. And when I went to see this movie, I was very surprised in a good way by how just purely entertaining and escapism it was, which is something we don't get much of anymore in these films from these major franchises. They're always trying to stand on a pedestal now, and they forget that they're supposed to let people escape their woes for a while. I mean, that was what, the golden age of cinema was. Yes, they had movies that were supposed to be infused with meaning, but the silver screen's main focus during the Depression was to help people escape a totally lousy situation for a few hours a day. And this movie does that, in spades.
Absolutely. It is fun stuff, and it's thoroughly entertaining every time I watch it. And that is kind of why you're watching any of these films, especially comic-related films. And, I don't know why I keep saying it's Charlie 27, and always scripts call him Charlie 29. I think it's because I don't know, but no one knows who he is anyway, outside of me and apparently Phantom Outsider in there. So anyway, but yes, I see some people in the chat said Vance Astro. That would have been great to see him in a film, but it would not have been a very lighthearted one. All right. Number 8, sir. Number 8, sir.
You already have it up there. That's my number 8.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And I've already talked about it, so we can move on to your number 8. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, my number 8 is Doctor Strange. Another fine job of telling the origin of a kid. Because look, I'm not if we're talking about characters like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man or someone like that, then I'm tired of origin stuff.
Yes.
But it was a necessity with Doctor Strange, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America even. It was a necessity. And if you're going to do it right. And this film absolutely does that. I don't disagree with you when it comes to how the first half of it is probably far more compelling. But by the time that's done, by the time it gets going, and it may be, you could probably criticize a little bit for, taking, I don't know, a shortcut, but he became, again, they didn't really explain the passage of time all that well as far as how he started really getting good at using the powers or whatever, but that's a minor bunk. It doesn't have, as much as I like the actor Matt Mikkelsen, he's not like the most compelling villain either. You get some of my complaints are we don't get a lot of Dormammu, who's the ultimate Doctor Strange villain.
Right.
But they're setting up Baron Mordo, so that's interesting at least. But overall, I find this to be an extraordinarily entertaining, visually eye-popping film, which is, again, what we're there for. And I remember before this thing came out, there were all kinds of different, buzzes about who's going to be cast. And my first one, I would say it's got to be Benedict Cumberbatch. So I don't know, it's got to be that guy. And I was shocked because I figured since I'm saying that, it won't happen. No chance. And it did. And I'm like, whoa, that's pretty cool. So the casting is fantastic. This is one of those rare examples where they cast the obvious guy and it worked. Because usually they don't cast the obvious guy and it still works. He's the obvious guy.
He is the obvious guy, and he does it to the nines. I mean, he really is the perfect casting for this. Absolutely.
Robert Downey Jr., you could argue maybe he wasn't the obvious guy, and then he turned out to be fantastic. Chris Evans is even as dumb as those Fantastic Four films are. He's great as Johnny Storm, so that's what I thought about. He was not the obvious guy for Cap. I was really skeptical on that, and I love him as Cap. And this was the obvious guy. for me, and he does a terrific job. And I think it's a wonderful, very enjoyable film, and a good job. They did a good job of introducing him into the MCU, in my opinion.
Yes, very much so. One of the best opening thirds, best opening acts of any MCU movie, period.
Indeedishness. Your number 7, sir.
My number 7 is Infinity War. And there's silence in the room because everyone's like, 7?
7? Nah.
No, I absolutely feel that, how do I put this? I've rewatched Infinity War 2 or 3 times, and I find that in a lot of my movie experiences, when there are window dressing elements that I don't like, that's when the movie's screenwriting seems to do the best. And that's in any franchise, not just MCU. So for example, this is the one version of Captain America that I did not buy as a Marvel Legends action figure because I thought he looked like junk in this movie. And I know he was supposed to. I get that.
Wow.
But I didn't. I hated his look in this movie so much that I didn't buy the action figure. However, I recognize how well written and how well paced and how genuinely suspenseful this movie is from beginning to end. You can't take that away from this film. And it brings everybody together, which, you know, we thought it was impressive when they got all these actors together for the first Avengers and coordinated all those different franchises together or different movie series together for one big thing. Well, this one blows that away by, you know, a nautical league. So it's an impressive feat of production. It's an impressive feat of tying all these threads together to create this story, and paying off a lot of things there was a joke, you know, for a long time that how many different MCU movies are going to end with a dude with a big purple head, you know, glaring into the stars or whatever. It's like, when is this coming? But even though this movie ends in a cliffhanger, that won't surprise Mike I don't let that invalidate my choices because one of my favorite movies ends in a cliffhanger, which is Empire Strikes Back. So I think this movie had a lot going for it. If I had any negative things to say about this movie, it made me hate Star-Lord because he was such a clueless douchebag at a critical moment. Yes. Couldn't keep it together, which showed me that throughout all these movies he learns nothing. He's just
terrible.
Yeah, he's just a git all the time, which is frustrating. But overall, though, the quality of this movie can't be denied, and it deserves a place within the top 10.
Absolutely. Well, we'll hear from it again eventually. Let's see here. My number, 7. I keep forgetting, lose track of the number. Sorry, everyone. My number 7 is Captain America: Civil War.
Ah, nice.
Avengers 2.0. Mm-hmm. This is a mess. For a movie to be this much of a mess, yet to be this high on my list, means it contains some of the most entertaining superhero stuff I've ever seen, and it does, in my opinion.
Yep.
It starts off in a very clunky way for me. That opening action sequence is not particularly well done. I will state up front without trying to start a civil war that I hate the Civil War comic. I hate that I hate this whole direction. Mm-hmm. I love the Russo brothers, or at least originally, but I think this is Feige. This was a bad decision introducing a Civil War into the MCU. Yeah. You don't have time to do crap like that, for one thing. It's not a series of comics. And I don't like I hate the idea in the comic. Everyone loves that Millar stuff. Fine, I hate it. And even though this isn't the same exact story as that, there's some elements and components to it. I can't stand it. So this is a question of me going in saying I hate this premise, and yet you go, why do you like the movie so much? Because it does deliver on an entertainment level. It doesn't really have much of a conclusion. It doesn't really go anywhere. There's not much of a pat ending, but in between, there's some of the most entertaining action sequences and character moments. One problem, though, that Kevin Feige is the idiot who allowed them to take this is kind of leading towards the MCU, where at the funeral for Peggy Carter, They have that classic, that great Captain America quote, about the river of truth.
Yep.
And they attribute to Peggy.
Right.
That's a Cap quote, folks. But then again, that's kind of indicative of MCU type stuff. Screw you, Feige. But nevertheless, the big fight at the airport is classic. It's something right out of comics when you're a kid, when you're 8 years old reading comics. And one of the things you love, whether it makes sense or not, you don't know why because you're a kid, right? But you love seeing superheroes fight each other. You know they're going to team up later and fight the bad guy. But when they first meet, it just happens. It's a trope. And maybe, I don't know if non-comics readers could understand this, but it happens. And it's something that here we get a fun fight between superheroes. And it's more fun because they're trying not to hurt each other.
Right.
So it's nothing serious, but it's fun. And that scene's incredible at the airport. And before that, there were actually some really good action sequences after that kind of clunky one at the beginning. There's good characterization all through here. Everyone has a lot to do. Even though this is not the actual proper Baron Zemo that he's supposed to be, although they kind of messed around with that later in the TV show I will not be naming that aired on Disney Plus. That guy, it is a good performance by him. It has a very downbeat, very dour ending that is not very satisfying, but as a whole, in between those two things, it's a very entertaining film, in my opinion. So that's just me. And where are we? That was my number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at 6, bud. Yo, number 6.
My number 6 is Ant-Man and the Wasp. And this is where I'm going to start losing the audience, and they're going to back away from me.
No.
Again, I have this affinity for well-delivered, irreverent humor. And how do I put this? Ant-Man and the Wasp not only is the movie that got me started collecting Marvel Legends figures and made the whole thing explode, but it also just happens to be a combination of actors portraying characters that I really thought was entertaining. I thought was funny. I liked it. I loved all the guys that ran the security business. The Baba Yaga jokes. I loved Michael Douglas being pissed off at Paul Rudd the whole film and just giving him shit the whole movie for constantly screwing up their lives. I liked the fact that we saw Wasp in it with Ant-Man and that they had some great special effects and the fight choreography and stuff. There was just a lot in this movie that I can kick back and just enjoy on like a Sunday afternoon. And I do. I have this movie in 4K and I've watched it quite a few times. This movie relaxes me and I have fun with it. And that's what I want out of a comic book movie.
Excellent.
And so I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Well, there you go. Now, again, that's a key thing. Like you were supposed to, that's what these films are, these MCUs are made for. That's why I have so many problems with some other thing that I will not mention that is unfortunately considered to be part of the MCU that I sat through for 8 episodes of, or was it 6? I think 6 maybe. Anyway, I'm sorry. No, but let's see here, because you don't want a downer. So
right.
My number 6 is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Nice.
I really, really, really like this movie a whole lot. I love it. And I've heard it getting bashed and beat up for years. I mean, not everyone. Some people like it. But it gets beat up way too much, in my opinion. And again, full disclosure, I do not like Tony Stark and Bruce Banner being responsible for the creation of Ultron. I hate it.
Right.
It should be Hank Pym.
Yes, that's true. That is my one issue probably with this movie. My one big issue. Yep.
Right. I just, that aggravates me. However, as a film, this one delivers the goods in spades in terms of characterization. How the characters are on point. They're great. There's a lot. It's never dull to me. I know people say this. It delivers on the action.
Yes.
On the effects.
Yes.
And I don't mind. Some people say it goes on too long at the end. I actually don't mind that the big bit in Sokovia goes on for a long time because it should.
Yeah.
And say what you want about Whedon. I mean, he's made a lot of good things. As far as he's made a lot, he's a good filmmaker. As a person, not so much, but that's not what we're here to talk about. I'm giving him kudos on this one because he talked about a movie that I will not name because everyone will know what I'm talking about. But there have been a couple of movies with so-called superheroes, ostensibly about superheroes, where they're punching people into buildings and people are just being destroyed all over the place, and they're just basically disaster porn. Well, Whedon makes a point of showing superheroes do what they're supposed to do. There are countless scenes of the Avengers saving people and helping people because that's fundamentally part of what superheroes do. It's filmed. It has a lot of good action. It has a lot of good humor without going over the top too much, and he usually does go over the top a lot. This Whedon, and it has a good heart and soul to it. I mean, I really just think this is an underrated film, and I say that because even though obviously it's a very successful film, it gets a lot of pounding on it for some reason, and I've never really been sure exactly why.
Yeah, and I'll talk about this film more a little later, but best Cap one of the best Cap costumes that's ever been in the MCU, some really great moments and really great character bits. I agree with you, man.
Your number 5, sir.
My number 5 is Thor Ragnarok.
Alrighty, there we go.
And I'll tell you, I totally agree with people who, and I understand people who don't want Thor turned into a joke. I completely agree, and I think that the unfortunate byproduct, as you stated when we were talking about this earlier, Mike, the unfortunate byproduct of the success of this movie was for them to double down on the joke in Endgame, and they should never have done that. That was a big mistake, and they shouldn't have done that. I also don't like the destruction of the hammer. Do I think it should have been taken away from him for a while in the movie? Sure. But destroying it—that's a little self-indulgent. Like you really shouldn't have done that because now you got that time travel problem and everything like that. However, as it's becoming obvious in my list, I have no problem with any character having an adventure that's more lighthearted in a comic book. If I recall correctly, Thor turned into a frog for a while.
You did.
So my point is saying, did they misstep in certain areas in this movie? Yes, specifically with the hammer. Their biggest misstep, though, was letting the joke play out too long in Avengers Endgame. They should have just had this be Thor's fun, lighthearted adventure, not ripped his eye out and not destroyed the hammer. And I think a lot of us would have been far more okay with this movie. I see those as problems, but the jokes for me, they land, and I really love the sense of humor in this movie. I love the dialogue, the quips, this movie really makes me laugh. This movie to me would only be better if Rocket was in it. And Rocket, but Rocket had other things to do during the time this movie was going on. But it has that flavor to it. And I've heard people blame Guardians of the Galaxy for making Thor Ragnarok a funny movie. I don't know if that's true or not. The success of Guardians put pressure on them but I personally fell in love with this movie from the moment I saw the trailer and I saw sort of the 80s, glam rock stuff in the logo and everything, and I was like, oh man, this looks like it's just going to be fun. And after Dark World, I'm like, yeah, can we have some fun with this? But I totally agree that fun should not have carried over into the last two Avengers films, or sorry, Endgame especially. That was a huge mistake, and they shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and again, it is undeniably highly entertaining, and I do like all that kind of stuff. And my criticisms are mostly some nitpicks, and it set the tone for Clown Thor, which, strangely enough, he wasn't really all that Clown Thor in Infinity War, but then he went back to ridiculous Clown Thor in Endgame. But
in Thor Ragnarok, he's not Clown Thor, he's cocky Thor.
Yeah,
and in Endgame, he's just a total clown, and it's like, guys, really,
it was a damn shame. But it is a very entertaining movie, and I love all the Kirby nods.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see here. What are we at now? Oh, my number 5 is where are we at? You think I know my own list, huh? My number 5 is Captain America: The First Avenger. You and I've talked about this one for a long time. Strangely enough, I don't disagree with any of your criticisms. In fact, you made me see some of them back when you don't realize we met right after this film came out. That's all it is. We know each other, and we talked about it like one of those early on. We used to talk about it a lot, and I always took to heart your criticisms of it. I think I love it so much for the beautiful telling of its origin. I think that last act is definitely slapdash, and it does concern me. Otherwise, it might be higher because you know how much I love Captain America. But that still is not enough to damage it for me personally. There's still so much wonderful stuff. I just kind of chalked it up as to some mistakes made by Joe Johnston, who I think his heart was in the right place for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess another thing, when this first came out, leading up to it, Joe Johnston and Chris Evans said some stupid stuff in some interviews about the character that I was doing my show at the time, and I went on Facebook, said, I'm not going to go see this because I was mad at him,
Mm-hmm. Should
I go see this? Shouldn't I? And friends were all saying, hey, go see it, go see it. All right. So look, I didn't want to go. Believe it or not, I didn't want to go. And of course I was thoroughly entertained. I think it would be so much better if they had finish the film out, and if they had listened to you. In other words, if they would come forward in time and get you to go back in time and fix some of these damn things, it would be and it's already great to me, but it would have been even better. But I still love it because I just think this is one of the most beautiful tellings of the origin of a character that I love that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In the first half.
Yeah. It would be like if the origin was, everybody's at a party and they're at the bottom of this big marble staircase with cocktails or champagne in their hands, and they're waiting for this guy to show up, and the main, man of the hour shows up at the top of the stairs, and he makes this grand entrance and tells a little speech at the top of the stairs, and that's the first half with the origin story of Captain America. And then the moment the middle of the act, the middle act begins, or whatever, the last half, that's when he makes the first attempt to walk down the stairs, and he trips and falls down these marble stairs like bad, just like loud, just crashing, like that he's breaking bones, and you're just like biting your knuckles, going, "Oh God!" You feel for the guy, but then right before he hits the ground, he finds his footing and he gets up and he sort of walks down the last 2 stairs, trying to regain his dignity. That's the part with him and Red Skull and the flying wing. Like that, once that part happens, the movie's back on its feet. But that whole middle bit, right after he saves Bucky, that whole, not middle bit really, but the whole last third prior to the climax is, to me, it's just this miscalculated move. I don't want to call it a mess because it's competently filmed, but I don't think they thought that through very well. And I hate the erasure of actual Nazi villainy from the film. I hate that.
Yet at that time they were doing that, I guess. Was Disney already in control at this point?
But I don't care what you think, Blue Hero 96. I don't care that you think I'm wrong. Nobody's totally wrong, Blue Hero 96.
Yeah, I mean,
all right?
You can disagree, but how are they wrong? It's an opinion, though. I mean,
yeah.
So, just not a good way to word that, Blue Hero 96. I don't know if you're familiar with Blue Hero 96. And we appreciate everyone being here, and we appreciate all opinions, but I don't know. I worded it a different way. Like if I disagree with Michael, I'd say, I disagree with you on that one, because that's what you do. You don't say you're wrong, but
right.
But anyway, yeah. So I don't know if you're familiar with Blue Hero 96, but it's just difference of opinion there, right?
Are you asking me?
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. Sure.
I mean, I know that. So
yeah. Just a difference of opinion there. Let's see here. Where are we at now? We're at 4. Are we at 4? Oh my goodness. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Your number 4, sir. I didn't skip you, did I?
No. My number 4 is Captain America: Civil War.
Okay.
And the reason that John Peters, you better not be telling me to calm down. Don't make it worse.
No,
man.
No calming down here. Look, people. Never good to tell anybody to calm down, dude.
Captain America: Civil War. The reason that this is higher up on my list is because one, I, I love Captain America, the way they portray him in this series. I thought that he was done expertly by both the writers and Chris Evans, of course. The way that the character dynamics play out between him and Tony Stark. I was not a fan like you, Mike. I was not a fan of the Civil War comic series. I thought that was a big mistake. Here, they did set up in the first Avengers that Tony Stark and him were going to come to blows, and then they followed that through with Age of Ultron. And while I agree with you that there wasn't enough time to set up something like this, like you can in a comic book, so much of this film did actually seem to work by some miracle. That I really enjoyed the way it played out. I enjoyed seeing all these characters kind of find their place in this conflict, and then, and then duke it out. Parts I do feel like this movie was 20 minutes too long, though, and so I feel like there's some bloat in there that needs to be dealt with. But overall, I thought it was a real achievement for the series, and the one thing I will say is that I love the interplay and a lot of the humor in the film between the characters. I thought Tom Holland's Spider-Man was great. I thought, and he foiled nicely with the seriousness of Black Panther. So these two new characters were tonally very different.
Yes,
there were some areas where they almost overstepped with certain jokes, though, like, the whole thing where he's like, have you seen that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back, The Walkers? It's like, okay, now Disney is referencing itself. And it's like, but again, not a deal breaker. Like, it's just little observations like that. Because they were tempered with other things that were great, where they're trying to catch Spider-Man, and then he webs Falcon and Bucky to the floor, and somebody says something, and then or something about the drone, and then Falcon's like, I hate you. That stuff is really good. So yeah, the one thing that I think is, and I'm talking myself into this, the one thing that I really didn't like very much was how they portrayed Baron Nemo. I thought he was way too pedestrian, and I thought that was in that era, like they did with the Mandarin, where they're like, we got to make these villains forgettable and normal.
Yes.
And it's like, come on, guys, do a little bit something with Baron Nemo here. Come on. And they're like, no.
Zemo is nothing like the guy in the now again on the stupid the Falcon Winter Soldier TV show, which I won't get into because it bothers me, everyone. But he is actually more. He's one of the few things that I almost didn't mind about that show, because he actually made him a little bit more, at least a little closer. But in that film, yes, he's nothing like Baron Zemo. I mean, he's just not even a Baron until that later show. So it's just. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, Blue Hero. I don't appreciate you saying that you're fucking sorry, but Michael is wrong about Hydra being a Nazi splinter group. Keep me honest here, Mike. In Captain America's original comic books in the Golden Age, Cap was fighting actual Nazis.
Absolutely right.
Yeah,
Hydra was way later in the.
He was not fighting. He was not fighting Hydra. He was not fighting Cobra and their laser hiss tanks. He was fighting Nazis. All right. Yeah. So I'm sorry, but you're fucking wrong. And with that, I move on.
That's fine. Look, Blue Hero, if you're going to disagree, do it respectfully, or don't do it at all. And that's not a respectful way to do it. And you're not correct, because Hydra was much later. Now, Hydra had nothing to do with Nazis until later. They retconned it in there. But Michael's absolutely right. In the comics, in the Golden Age, when Captain America first saw it, he was just fighting Nazis, Yahtzees. And that's the way it is. But again, whether right or wrong, you got to do it respectfully here. That's all we ask. And it's not too much to ask. And when you're throwing shit like that out, you're fucking wrong. That just doesn't play. So I'm going to ask you not to do stuff like that. Michael's a guest and a very good friend. You can disagree with anyone. You can, and by the way, you can say that shit to me all day long, but you won't say it to my guests here. So, sorry about that, Mike.
No, it's fine. It's just that if they're good, if don't start, none won't be none. You're gonna throw down. Right. I'm gonna throw back. So yeah,
absolutely right. And if you could hang and be civil, we have no problem with discussion. I really don't. Number 4 is
Yeah,
my number 4, right?
yeah, you're number 4.
My number 4 is The Avengers. Your favorite? One of the things you were talking about with the film The Avengers, that I actually don't entirely agree with you on. You say how thin it was. It was, but I have always reviewed this film. I probably told you this a million times. I don't know. As the 6th part of a 5-part serial. I mean, a 6-part serial. In the sense that all of the meat of its story was laid out in the other films, and this was just the conclusion, the last chapter of a serial. When I view it like that, it helped because it is. Look, if you just watch it, if you're one-offing it, you don't know much about the other films. It's pretty thin stuff.
Right.
No question about it. But I believe all the character setup and everything that was done before is enough to conclude it as a 6-part opener to this universe. Plus, this was unlike anything I'd ever seen when I saw it in 2012 at the theater.
Mm-hmm.
It blew me away because I was getting to see, again, we had context because these characters have been introduced already.
Right.
And then we get, it builds up, I think, with some really nice action set pieces and some pretty good characterization and character interactions, culminating in an epic battle of superheroes. Granted, they weren't fighting super villains, but they were fighting an army of drone type, alien type things at Chitauri. But it was so well done and so entertaining. By the time we get to that, I'm hooked, and I'm seeing just pure, unadulterated superhero stuff. I'm an 8-year-old when I'm watching this film in 2012. An 8-year-old, and it always does that to me when I watch it. It is very basic and very thin stuff, but I think it's a pretty good way to conclude the origin of the MCU.
I think the film is rife with character development and character moments and all that kind of stuff. Great dialogue, great action sequences, everything like that. Where I'm saying it's thin is just simply that they say they're looking for something, but they don't really seem to spend a lot of time actually looking for it. They're like, the Tesseract got stolen and we got to find it. And it's like, well, are you going to go find it? Or are you going to just sit here and look at that stick, in the stasis field for like 3 hours? And that's where I was coming from when I watched, the film originally. I was like, wow, they're not really looking for that cube. and then of course the cube ends up on the top of their own building because they haven't been using the time wisely to look for it. They've literally been staring at Loki's stick the whole time. That's the whole thing. It's
Yes.
Yeah. And so what I'm saying is the problem of the week that this Avengers film sets up, this part 6 says, hey, thingy got stolen. Got to go find the thingy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, go find it. And then they're like, nah, we're good on the helicarrier. And I'm like, oh, God dang. Like, so that's my only issue with the film. Everything else, the action sequences, the dialogue, that's all great. I've watched the movie several times just based on that alone.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
I guess what it is, and for those who don't know me, early on, you can say I'm very critical of a lot of films. When we've reached this part of the list, and when it comes to this film, I'm an 8-year-old and I don't have much of a critical eye. I fully admit it. I mean, I went to that theater and I'd never seen anything with superheroes looking like they popped off a comic book page more in terms of having superhero battles and fights amongst each other and fighting a big army of aliens. I'd never seen that like of that. And I never thought I would, but that was what was going on in my imagination as a child reading comic books or even watching them on cartoons. And that was the first time. And I guess as an experience, this film is more of an experience as well. I guess that's why I'm pretty easy on it. I do understand all the criticisms of it, but I dearly love it for that. And I went many times.
Yeah, no, it's a huge cinematic milestone as far as having all these parallel running movie series come together, for one inflection point and bringing all those cast members together. Yeah, like that is a massive milestone in movie history. They beat the venerable DC to it by 1,000 miles. And they should be definitely, saluted for that. I don't have a problem with a simple plot. Like in other words, a plot can be as simple as it needs to be. And Avengers had the premise of a simple plot. Thing gets stolen, we got to find it. Yeah. And I'm like, cool. but then there's not a lot of finding that goes on. That's all I'm saying.
No,
Yeah.
I got you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, it's valid.
So,
it's valid.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 3, sir.
Oh, number 3. Wow. Iron Man, the original.
We have our second tie of the evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
There may be another one later. You never know. But I just watched it again the other day and many times. Go for it.
Yeah. So this movie, of course, as we all know, is the beginning of the MCU. We didn't know it was an MCU at the time. I just thought it was Iron Man the way the '89 Batman had come out. I wasn't aware that they were trying to pull all this together. And so the whole movie, when I went, and I know that a lot of people in retrospect on internet news sites like to say, oh, they used this third tier hero that nobody'd heard of before. So what a gamble. And I'm like, oh, really? Because I had the Iron Man Secret Wars figure as a kid. He was the one Secret Wars figure I wanted. I knew who Iron Man was. I liked Iron Man. He was cool. So when they made this movie, I was like, wow, awesome. They're actually making a legit superhero into a legit superhero movie. They're not just making the umpteenth Batman film again. Robert Downey Jr., perfectly cast, great character development, real, moral quandaries with his, arms company and everything like that. Really like the plot, of his partner trying to pull the rug out from under him. We can see that in the news in our lifetime, with all these corporations. I really liked all the performances in this. I loved the way it was all mapped out and the way they put it all together. I have absolutely no complaints about this movie whatsoever. So
and again, going into it, I have, first of all, I still will say that he was not a household name like Superman or Batman or Spider-Man.
No, he wasn't. But for me, he was. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Geeks knew about him.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't read a lot of comics, there was the cartoon,
Right.
things like that. We're not talking as obscure the Eternals or something, but we're talking about someone who there's still a lot of people that would go, huh? Who's that? And they knew who Robert Downey Jr. was, but they wasn't like he was well known, and that was something, but he wasn't a superstar per se. I mean, he was big, but he wasn't that big. And first of all, I had relief when this was finally coming out, and he got cast, because there was a lot of musings about it being Tom Cruise, which I will not walk into a theater to see anything with that shithead in it. So there would have been an Iron Man movie I wouldn't be watching if he got cast. So
same. I was really glad he didn't get cast.
Oh God! Yeah. So what a and Alex Ross's and Kurt Busiek's Marvels. I loved how they modeled the Tony Stark in that after Timothy Dalton. If he had been young enough, that would have been the one I wanted. But the casting turned out to be better than anyone could have expected. With RDJ. He did a terrific job. Yes, I have nothing. If there's any complaint about this movie, is I'd have liked to see maybe one more 10-minute sequence with Iron Man action in it.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'll back up 1 second. My brain just processed one of the things you said. Did you say that they were considering doing an Iron Man movie with Timothy Dalton?
No, there's a comic book called Marvels in the early 90s where painted by Alex Ross and Kurt Busiek wrote a great comic. And in that comic, it was basically the history of the Marvel Universe. And he was using actor, like the faces of kind of models of actors. For example, Russell Johnson was Reed Richards.
Right.
Patrick Stewart was Professor X, and that was it was almost 10 years before he was actually cast as Professor X. And his model of Tony Stark was Timothy Dalton.
Oh, he's my hero. Obvious. He's my hero now.
It was so obvious that it was Timothy Dalton. I'm like, wow. But again, obviously, by the time this was cast,
right,
too old for the role. But still, that would have been cool. But anyway, but I love this film. Like I said, a little bit more Iron Man action I could have done with, because I'd have sat there another 10, 20 easy. But it is a great origin film, and it's just you can't ask for a better start to a franchise, if you want to use that word, than this one.
Yeah, no, you can't. Yeah, you can't.
Let's see. We're at number 2, bud.
Oh, no, it's your number 3.
Oh, my number 3? Oh, no, we just handled it. It was both.
Oh, that's right, because both.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. That's our second tie of the evening. So now, all right, my friend, go for number 2.
My number 2 is Age of Ultron.
Oh,
And
nice.
I know, and I know that people are going to beat me over the head for that one. But look, I walked away from Avengers, like I said, the original, very ambivalent toward the whole thing, and then I tried to catch up with some of it when I heard Winter Soldier was really good, and so I went back and started watching a bunch of the films. And admittedly, like a lot of people, when I first watched Age of Ultron, I walked away just kind of like, I mean, it was just another superhero. It was, to me, it was like, well, it was like Avengers. I just kind of walked away, just like, I didn't hate it, but I didn't think it was all that. And I'd heard people saying that this one wasn't all that. But then when I revisited the movie, trying to gear up for Infinity War, went back and bought all the discs and was watching them all. I just found myself really getting invested in that movie. Like I just really was leaning forward in my seat and really having a good time with it. And then I started watching it a few days later, and then again a few days later. And I realized I was watching that movie as much as I was watching like Deadpool. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. I know that it should have been Hank Pym who created Ultron. I get that. Sure. Avoidable mistake that they probably should have worked out. I get that. But I liked the fact that they tried to give Ultron as a villain a motivation. I loved all the seeds that they planted for all the characters that got paid off in later films. And as if that wasn't enough, looking back on everything, this is the only Avengers movie that feels like an issue of the comic that doesn't feel like an epic crossover event or some kind of world-ending event or some kind of origin story. It's literally the one Avengers movie that could be one of the monthly issues or whatever on the newsstand. It's the one time where the characters are together at the beginning and they're together at the end. Like they did their thing. I know they have some interpersonal politics going on, but that's also accurate to the comic book as well. Everybody had their little beefs with one another. But It's the one film where it's not an origin or an ending. It's the one Avengers movie where it's just, this is the adventure. And it's like, cool.
Yep. Yeah. It delivers on so many levels.
Yeah. I love the action scenes in it. I love the chase with the truck. I love all that stuff. It just has so much going for it. And I don't know why it's so underrated. So
I've heard so many people that just didn't like it. They were disappointed, which is again all fine. I mean, I just don't get it personally. I mean, I love the Hulkbuster fight, by the way, with the Hulk, the Hulkbuster armor scene. I mean, wow, it's just I don't know, man. I really love the movie,
right.
I look again. We're all about opposing views here, so it's fine if someone doesn't like it. But I don't understand it. It's just so entertaining.
Yeah, it really is.
Wall to wall too. I mean, the few quiet moments are really good character moments. There's never a time where I was bored at all in this one.
Yep, not at all. I could watch this movie, once a week if I was forced to, and I'd be cool with that. There's some weird surreal stuff in parts of it, with Thor trying to have his visions and all this shit. And how he figures out that Vision has to be like created, it's a little thin. I haven't really figured that part out. They kind of run right past that plot point, but I don't see anything different in many of the other MCU films have moments like that where they kind of muddle through one part of the script or they use plot armor to get something going. I mean, so in other words, you can't levy that problem against this movie and call it a deal breaker, because then you'd have to basically invalidate a number of these movies.
Yeah. Again, I've only been able to take a look at the chat every now and then, everybody, but I see some people are kind of like us. They like it as well. So,
yep.
But I mean, I run into people that don't. Maybe time has changed. Same things. But so my number 2 is Avengers: Infinity War. In spite of the fact that there's not really necessarily an ending, but we both talk. My favorite all-time movie is The Empire Strikes Back, and it doesn't really have an ending either. But I love it.
Right.
I can nitpick one or two little things in it, like some of the stuff with the Shuri being smarter than Bruce Banner and Tony Stark. Crap, I hate that kind of little nitpicks. The thing with Star-Lord, I'm totally with you about. That was a shame. Some of the over-the-top humor, But this is such a slam bang smash superhero epic with some of the greatest superhero action. And I think, again, by the way, Thor is not really in clown mode in this one. He's so badass in this one. You don't get a lot of Cap, but we get, even though I have a lot of problems with Endgame, at least we got a payoff for Cap for that, right? We don't get a lot of Cap. We get some good Cap, but not a lot, sure. We get a lot of Tony, though, and we get a lot of great Thor stuff. And I was a little annoyed with some of the stuff they were doing with Bruce, not letting him be Hulk, but we knew they were teasing that. But, it's okay. Those are very, very swell depictions. This movie is so entertaining, especially it was so out and out comic book. And I really, again, this is where I think the not being too goofy, you can just enough write a bit of fun with the Thor and Rocket stuff. I really like.
Yeah,
I like that dynamic with them.
Yeah.
And this is just an exciting movie all the way through. When Thor goes to Nidavellir, when we see just how powerful he is, when he takes the brunt of that star, and all that stuff, and then the big battle in Wakanda. Yes, I know, another big battle against an army. A lot of people have complained about that kind of stuff in these films. I get it, but what are you going to do? They don't have zillions of supervillains to fight because they don't do that in these movies. So you got to fight something. And at least it was a bunch of aliens this time that were all over the place. It's a pretty good battle, but the best parts are, of course, when Thor finally shows up and just starts, whipping ass with Stormbreaker. Just so many wonderful moments in this film, in my opinion. It just really, really do love it, in spite of how things kind of went later.
Yeah. It was almost like they plotted this one so well that they really didn't know how to get themselves out of it with Endgame. Like
Yeah. Sounds like a movie called Return of the Something or Other with a J in it.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Except that's way better.
Oh, well, yeah.
Time for the big shocker, dude. Our number one. Like, as Dr. Demento used to say, I'm sorry to sing it badly, it's time for number one. This is it. Here we are, number one.
Yep.
And I believe, sir, I could be wrong, but we have another tie.
I mean, yeah, if your number one is Deadpool 2. No, I'm kidding.
I forgot to put that picture up.
No, yes, we do have a tie.
Go for it.
Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Yes, sir. Go for it.
Okay, so you want me to start?
Sure.
Yeah, this movie was the movie that brought me back to the MCU. I felt like my MCU got off to a great start with Iron Man. My experience with the MCU, it started to kind of crack at the foundations with my first experience with the first Avenger, and Thor being okay but not life-changing, and then Avengers, just my initial experience with it feeling kind of thin. Riggs, it just felt thin. And then people kept telling me, no, Michael, you got to see the Winter Soldier. You've got to see the Winter Soldier. It's right up your alley. It's your kind of movie. It's what you've been waiting for. I was like, and I pulled the whole Thor Ragnarok thing, and I'm like, is it really? And they're like, no, you got to see it. And so I saw it, and it blew my socks off, and I was like, yes, this is what I wish, every film in the MCU could be like. Expertly plotted, great tension. This is how you properly subvert expectations, Ryan Johnson. Like, this is how you do this. I can't say enough good things about this movie, and I feel like if I try, I'm just going to come off like some pathetic fanboy. That Captain America gets to be the fully distilled character in this movie, after he realizes that the system that he's put all of his energy and his loyalty into has betrayed him. But he knows that, even though the system has betrayed him, he's got to stay true to himself. He can't sell out to this system. It's not the system that makes him the man. It's his principles that make him the man. And, going through that character arc and learning that, while also learning that the friend he thought was dead, his best friend in the world, is now this awful monster. And then to find out that monster isn't even in control of himself, that he's basically trapped in his own body. and how is he going to navigate that, and not having, you know, Nick Fury to help him, because even Nick Fury wasn't prepared for what was about to happen inside Shield. So much good stuff in this film, and you know, the beginnings of a great friendship with Falcon, and of course we see the death of Peggy and how that affects him. So much business in this film, and then of course that great dialogue, the back and forth with him and Black Widow throughout the whole movie, because they're the ones on the run.
Yes.
I love this movie. Really, really love this movie.
This is, I mean, I don't know. I never like to use the word masterpiece, but I'll say borderline masterpiece. I mean, you could probably nitpick a little thing like how, you know, as far as the way they introduced Sam, kind of sudden, like just he all of a sudden gets involved. Nevertheless, it still works, because you go, why, if you want to say, why did he just automatically go put his neck out on the line for these people? He didn't, not a stranger, even though he didn't know Cap. That's Captain America. That's why he did it.
Right.
When I grew up, my first Captain America exposure, the first comic book, the title was called Captain America and the Falcon.
Ah, nice.
That was when the title was that. So these characters, you know, they belong together, in a sense, for me. And I love them. And I just I don't know. I just really, really love everything about it. It's tough to just distill it all into one little review for me, because I did not think I was going to like it that much. This is one of those ones, when I saw the trailer, I was like, I don't know. Okay. I mean, I was fully invested in this universe, as you know, but I saw a trailer, like, well, I'll go see it. That was about it. Because I like the comic book, the Ed Brubaker comic it's based on. It's pretty good. But I was not that thrilled that they were going there with Winter Soldier, to be kind of honest with you. I was just sort of not angry about it like I was with them using the Civil War story, but just relatively indifferent to it. And you go in this film, and every bit of it just works. Every single bit of it. It's just, you've got the 70s spy thriller aspect to it. You got some of they balance character scenes with action. You've got so many great scenes. One of the greatest scenes in all the MCU, in my opinion, folks, is when Cap gets in the elevator.
Yes.
That I can watch that scene 100 times today.
Right.
It's just, you gotta love it. He gets in there, and you start seeing all these big monster dudes coming in there, and it's pretty obvious. You're kind of laughing when you first see it. You're like, oh, they're not there for. That's not a coincidence, right? And it's just the greatest. It's great Cap bravado that's not over the top. It's like, before we get started, anyone want to get out?
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
yeah, and his speech at the end, right before they start the final attack, you know. A lot of you have heard a lot of things about me over the last few days, you know, like that whole thing. I'm willing to bet that I'm not, you know, the only one that'll stand up for what's right, you know, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I want to see in a superhero movie. And we don't get that enough in so many of these dystopian, nihilistic, jaded productions at other companies, and even within Disney now with some of these things. This movie was firing on all cylinders, and it was one of those rare moments where everything comes together to perfectly encapsulate a classic character. And yeah,
that's a great scene, and then it gets followed up by some cool action when he jumps out the window, and when he takes down that shield jet with just his shield.
Yep.
God, so that is so Cap.
Yes, very much so. I love the whole thing where they show up at Falcon's house and they're like, everyone's trying to kill us, you know. Yeah. I mean, so there's just so much good interpersonal characterization here. The whole running gag of her trying to get him a date, and they keep idly talking about it throughout the movie. You know, what about that girl in Personnel, you know, or whatever.
Everything, man. There's so many great scenes. I love him, and I mean, Little even very tiny scenes, like in the museum when he's incognito and he sees a little kid that sees him and sees that he's Cap.
Right. Yeah.
Love that. I love Sam in this thing, and again, I think this is a breakout for the Black Widow character, Scarlett Johansson. This is maybe never better than in this one. It's just, and again, this one doesn't have a really, and oddly enough, doesn't have a big main villain. You have, Alexander Pierce. I'm not a big Robert Redford guy per se, but he does fine. But he's not like the standard. In other words, he's not a hands-on type of a villain like a Red Skull type or something like that. Yet he's just there enough.
Well, that's the whole thing. The threat is the system, not so much one person. Like you could have killed Robert Redford at the beginning of this movie, and the threat of the conspiracy would still be there because all the other players are still on the chessboard. And that's the whole thing. Captain America is now up against, a true Hydra. He's up against something where you can shoot and cut off one head, and you don't know where the other two are going to crop up from. How do you stop something like that? You stop it by standing up right in front of it, facing it, and publicly declaring, "I won't back down from this." It's really an amazing feat. Mike, we've talked about this before. How when we find people who aren't interested in Star Trek, and we say, "Look, watch Wrath of Khan." Anyway, like you don't have to have watched a lot of Star Trek or any Star Trek because Wrath of Khan is a fabulous film on its own.
Yep.
It stands alone as this fabulous movie that anybody can watch. And I feel that is the case with The Winter Soldier as well. Like I feel like barring a few minor things that you could explain to somebody watching it in a sentence before the movie starts, this is a solid movie on its own. It is the Wrath of Khan of the MCU.
Absolutely. That's a very, very, that's a great analogy. Yes, because you could show someone that one, and even if it doesn't make them necessarily run right out and grab the other ones, they'll definitely like it. And they might make them want to go, well, that's good. Maybe I need to watch some of those other ones. And they probably will watch at least the other Cap films. It's terrific. It is, to me, it's, and it's probably up there because we're just doing MCU movies tonight. In my opinion, the greatest, most respectful, and most wonderful, treatment of a superhero on screen will always be the 1978 Christopher Reeves Superman film by Richard Donner.
Yep.
This gets as close to treating a character the way, absolutely translating them so perfectly to that film as. I'm not saying there aren't others that come close, but this one for me is probably the closest.
Yeah, I would agree. Superman 1978. This one. I'm trying to think if there's any others. I mean, like
there are a few here and there. I mean, I
don't completely hate the '89 Batman, but I don't like what they did to the Joker's origin. I like Deadpool, although he's sort of a postmodern superhero. He's not a classic one.
But they're fun movies. They're fun movies.
Yeah, they're fun movies. Rocketeer, but he's not a superhero. He's a guy with a jetpack.
But he is a comic book character, so that's a great translation. Rocketeer is wonderful,
Yeah. So I would say that Captain America: The Winter Soldier is definitely right below Christopher Reeve, 1978 for sure.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, it does hangs with that, and this is just a wonderful interpretation of Cap. And this one, if all of the movies were half this good, I mean, my list wouldn't have had very much complaining at all.
Yep, agreed. Yep.
But so everyone, that is our list, and we had some variances, and we had at least 3 ties or something like that. I think 3 or 4 ties.
3 or 4.
So, so we're not too far off on some of those. And I know everyone, because we had such a busy chat, and I was trying to stay focused, I couldn't see everything you were all saying, but I do appreciate that I hope you were all having a good time having conversations in the chat about the lists, and I know I just appreciate you all being here. It's just really means a lot to me. So you pop up here on our Monday Night Mark C Comics Talk. Michael, dude, I cannot thank you enough for hanging with me tonight, brother. It's been so much fun. We hope we can do it again soon, man.
Yeah, we should do it again soon for sure. And you'll be with us on Iconicon. So
can't wait. Yeah, tell everyone a little bit about Iconicon and what's going on with your channel.
Well, it's not my channel. That's the beautiful thing about it. I run the Retroblasting channel, but this is a multi-channel free online convention, July 7th through the 11th, called Iconicon, and it's just all of us channels: Clobberin Times, myself, Analog Toys, 2 Cents Toys, Simple Tricks and Nonsense, Movie Oubliette. There's a number of channels. You can actually go to iconicononline.com and you can get more details about it, but it's a free multi-channel, multi-day virtual convention where there'll be all these topics about the 1980s, not just toys, not just movies, but all kinds of stuff that we're talking about. And we've got special guests that are going to be on certain live streams. There'll be some videos that are finished and there'll be some that are live streams. So like, for example, Melinda and Conrad from Movie Oubliette, they will be talking with Catherine Mary Stewart and Kelly Maroney from Night of the Comet about about all of their work in film in the 80s and how that relates to filmmaking today and everything like that. And I was able to interview with Matt Swafford with Reclaimers Vintage Toys. We were able to interview Tom Clark, who was the inventor of the Boglins, and he's going to be talking all about his time, making toys for I believe it was Coleco. So I think he also helped to develop the Sectars. So it's going to be a fun event, and it's going to go from, like I said, July 7th to the 11th. We wanted to make that easy to remember, 7-11. But yeah, we're really excited, and I'm really excited that Mike here at Clobberin Times is gonna be doing some streams with us, and it's gonna be fun.
I was trying to find the link for it, man. I can't. Everyone listening, trying to find the best way people can find the link for it. I was Googling it.
I'll get it. Iconicononline.com, and then let me just grab it.
If you put it in the private chat, I'll put it out there so everyone can find it.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna put it in my right now. I'm gonna put it in my
There it goes. I've just put it in the private chat.
Oh, okay. Did you really? Okay, good. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna put it in my I'm gonna keep it in my description from now on when we get it in there. Let's see. Everyone, by the way, here's the link to Michael's great page, Retroblasting, of course. And now let me get that link for Iconic. Is this for the website?
Yeah. Oh, okay, no, cool. That's for the website. Yeah, for Iconicon. Cool. It's where they can get all the details. So if you post that, then that should be correct. So,
well, I know everyone here is probably very familiar with Michael's great channel, Retroblasting. But if you have not been over there, please go over there. He's got amazing. He's been around. He's been doing this almost 10 years now, bud.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and, it's a great channel.
Yep, thank you. And like I said, I've got a lot coming down the pipeline. We're moving into more discussion about movies and television for various reasons. We're still doing toys and cartoons. But now that there's 5, now there's 5 dedicated people on our crew, there's a lot more ground we can cover. And we're moving into that as well.
Well, yeah, again, how would you, if you were telling somebody, if someone said, you have a YouTube channel, what is it about? How do you, because I always tell people, and I get confused, I get messed up because I get bogged down. You have 80s, but it's not just 80s stuff.
No, it's not. It's we try and jokingly call it the Gen X experience, where we say it's everything from Jaws to Jurassic Park. But really, that was several years back. That's why we kept the name of it so open, Retroblasting. We wanted to have some flexibility. And so now what we've decided to do is just start testing the waters and branching out a little bit to talk about other things we've wanted to talk about. I'm not going to calm down, John Peters. That's not how I make content.
Huh?
Oh, he said, good stuff, Retroblasting, but calm down.
What is it with the calm down thing?
I don't know. You know what? People think they're being funny, and it's like, go try stand-up and see if that joke flies with an audience.
I mean, you're calm. You seem calm to me, dude.
Yeah, I am calm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, don't mess with people for no reason. I mean, if you know each other, it's one thing, but you don't even know the gentleman. I mean, I don't get it. Don't ever calm down, please.
No, that's the funny part. People are, in content creation, they always want you to like they say, I love your stuff, but if you could just change this, and this about your personality. And it's like, dude, the reason you're getting this content is because my brain works the way it does, whether you misinterpret my emotions or not. So if you want me to become vanilla pablum like the other 50 guys over there who are just Chuckle House fanboys, go right ahead. But I'm not going to budge. I'm going to stand by my river of truth and keep making my content the way I want to make it. And that's what a lot of people over the years have butted heads with me about.
Well, they do it to me too, man. Not as much as you, of course, because you got more people on the channel there, but they do it to me too. They think I'm a little excitable, which I don't understand at all. Look how calm I am. You know how calm I am. No, but well, dude, you're calm. And again, look, here's the thing. It's a pet peeve with some people. A lot of people don't get it, but nobody, even when you aren't calm, if you're angry about something, this little tip to everyone out there. If someone is angry about something and they're not actually calm, don't tell them to calm down. That's the absolute anti thing you should be doing. You should go let them, because I don't know, Michael, does it make you ever like want to calm down if you're angry and someone tries to get you to stop being angry? You got to let it run its course.
No, that's the funniest part is that most of the time when they say that to me, I was already calm. And so all it succeeds in doing is being very patronizing and to the wrong personality. It's like, all right, you know what? How about I fill this wiffle bat up with wet sand and then hit you with it? Then we'll see who's calm and who's not. It's just, Oh, and thank you, by the way, Captain Spock, for the kind words. He says, Retroblasting's Firehouse of Fun is one of the best or Fire Hose of Fun is one of the best videos out there on Kathleen Kennedy. Don't change. I appreciate that. We put a lot of work into that. So. Yeah,
thank you, Captain Spock. That's a great video. There's so many. I mean, all the videos are great. I love them. And man, every time you drop one, dude, they're amazing. And dude, it's so much fun hanging with you. It's been a while because I know you're busy, and you dropped everevering to come here and hang out with me tonight, dude. You've been a fantastic friend, and I just can't thank you enough.
No, man, you and I. That's you and I. We go way back, farther than Han and Lando.
Absolutely.
And John Peters, I get that it was a joke, man. I get it. I just sometimes it's hard to tell what a joke is in text. And trust me, it's how I found myself in trouble a lot on the internet over the years, in ways you couldn't imagine. But yeah, man, like I'm always happy to come on here and talk and hang out with you. It's a tradition. It's been going on for over a decade now, and I hope it never changes. I really do.
I appreciate you. And when you talk about that, it's the context. It's kind of like the text thing. For example, I've known you for 10 years, and I wouldn't go and if you were like, if I thought you were not being calm, I wouldn't go say, calm down, Mike. But if I did say something, smart aleck to you, it was me, and I'm just kidding you because you know me.
Right, exactly.
Like when I pick on you when you're doing a stream or I joke with you or Melinda or something, it's for me. You know me, and so I'm screwing around. And so it's just when you don't know someone, you never know. That's all it is. It's a context thing, and it's an inflection thing. You can't really affect it through a text thingy. That's all. So that's all any of us are saying right there. I mean, even if you don't mean anything by it, if someone doesn't know you personally, then they can't really tell, can they? Because you get a lot of, look, it's a strange thing, Michael, but we talk about it every now and then. And look, a stranger, yeah, but look, John Peters, thank you for that. I mean, look, still, you get assaulted by a lot of people, and think about it. All we're doing is giving opinions on geek stuff.
Right.
We don't do politics, you or I. We don't, it's not that controversial to not like a film. I'm sorry, everyone. It's just not that controversial to dislike a comic book or a movie. It really isn't. It shouldn't be a cartoon or a toy.
Right.
It shouldn't be that big of a deal.
It's not, and that's why I get so weirded out when people feel like somebody's opinion about a Marvel movie or a toy line from the 70s is like worth going to war over. It's kind of like, and they come at you like you've gone into their living room and smashed their coffee table. And you're like, I basically just wanted to say that Bionic 6 is a weird show. Like that's all I said. I didn't realize that I had taken a baseball bat to your mailbox. Like, and that's how they act. That's how they act. They're like, hey, And you're going, whoa. And so then they say, you started this. And I'm like, what? All I said was Bionic 6 was a weird show. I didn't know who you were. I didn't mention you. I didn't say you were stupid. I didn't say you looked dumb in that dress. Like I'm just talking about this show. It's like, so who's really starting this conflict here? It's weird. It's weird how social media works.
Dude, I started a shitstorm on Twitter the other night because, and again, I found a picture of someone that did a picture of a bunch of different heads of the Joker, like through the ages from 1940 to the present day, the different quote unquote iterations or versions.
Right.
And I took it and I was having a little fun. I took it on my phone and I put an X through most of the modern ones up from a certain point from like 2004 up. And I wrote fixed it. I put a cross through all the ones that are illegitimate bullshit.
Right. Yeah, well, I saw that. I remember seeing that.
Do you know how many people got pissed off at me that I don't know, by the way? My friends some friends just disagreed with some of it, and we had a conversation. And it's weird. People that I don't know or don't follow and they don't follow me got on there and were nice about it. Just like they disagree. Oh, why don't you like this? And that's fantastic.
Right.
But a couple of them were pissed off. And when they start throwing shade at me and insulted me, I was like, wow, are you butthurt? Are you going to cry? I mean, because I don't care if you disagree with me, but are you going to cry or whatever? And it was kind of strange. I'm like, so what you don't know me. I'm a stranger. Mm-hmm. What do you care if I called it bullshit? So right. One of them even said something like, one of them didn't get really mad, but said, illegitimate bullshit or just you don't like them. And I said, well, isn't that kind of the same thing? I'm just kind of, yeah. Is it really that serious? And but it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
No, it really shouldn't be.
I mean, it's like, so what? I'm one dopey old geek who likes something and doesn't like other things, and I'll joke around. Believe me, I promise you, I did not ratify anything into law and pass it through Congress and turn you. Congratulations, Bill. Now you're a law. So there's no law that says those ones I X'd out are actual, real, legally illegitimate bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you. There's no law. It's not going to hurt anybody. They were just, thank you, Matthew. But like I say, and some good friends, we're cool about it. So was it inflammatory? I don't think so, because it's just a stupid fictional character.
Right.
But I mean, I called it illegitimate bullshit. But again, I'm not the arbiter of that. I'm just, except for my own opinion.
I've really considered doing like you can do a trailer for your channel, and I've really considered doing a trailer for the Retroblasting channel. I've been on 10 years and I've never done a trailer in 9 years. And I've got all these disparate quotes from all these different people over the years that, how they do those TV spots for movies where they're like, see what the critics are saying about Minions 5, or whatever. And I wanted to do like, see what the critics are saying about Retroblasting. And first it's like, Analog Toys, and it says, he makes the best videos about toys on YouTube, Analog Toys, and then it's like, woof. And then the next one is like, he's a cancer on the Star Wars collecting community, blah, blah, blah. And then the next one is like something nice. And then the next one is a real quote where it's like, he's a commode trash human, like Joe, blah, blah, blah. I thought maybe I should, just do something like that just to show people how, how crazy and dichotomous social media chatter can be. And how different people can perceive you, how differently one person can perceive you versus the next person. And all of them are convinced that they know who you are. And it's like, for example, right now to everybody listening, Mike and I, we know each other. Like we know each other in real life. We've not just for 2 hours at a convention, like we've known each other for 10 years and had the privilege of being around each other in person multiple times for long periods of time, and that's how you get to know somebody, like really get to know them. But it's very difficult and folly, really, to assume that you've got somebody's personality pegged. If you're just listening to them on the net. So
yeah. That's true. And you can meet really good friends online, but it takes a while. I've only been on, like I said, I've moved to YouTube a year ago, as you know. And I have a lot of friends, some friends from Blog Talk Radio before that. And I've had some wonderful people, made friends with some wonderful people here just via my chat. Now, tonight, because you're here, a lot of people that know you that I'm not even familiar with popped in. And I love all you people for popping in. I really appreciate everyone. You guys I don't know, you guys I do know. I have so many regulars that, I mean, our Saturday night Star Trek shows, Michael, they're really taking off. We interact with our chat. We have so much fun. And so they're really great people. You get, but obviously it's not the same as getting to know them in real life, but it's still a great thing to get in touch with them and exchange ideas with them. And I do love it.
Yeah.
As long as you're being friendly and cool, you can disagree. And some of them have just been fantastic. And once in a while, somebody will come in and say something, that's weird, or you're not sure what they're saying or why they're saying it, or, maybe you don't understand it. But if I always try to hash it out with them. And I want everyone to be here to, even if you said something that it took you to task for, I'm just saying, look, if you do it in a friendly way, if you do it in a nice way, and you don't mean anything bad by it, and we all hash it out, and we're friendly at the end of it. That's what I'm here for, folks. Just want to be, I like making friends with all of you, and I want, so I really am appreciative of everyone.
Yeah,
all my regulars who popped here tonight, and all of you who I did not previously know. I see a lot of names in here.
Yeah, if you want to hate me, go ahead and hate me, but don't hate Michael. Don't hate Mike at Clobberin Times. I'm his guest. I'm the one yelling.
Oh, they call me. They call me Clobby, but no, they can't. No, if you're gonna hate him, you gotta hate me because he's one of my best pals in the world. You can hate me. That's okay. Look, a lot of people that hate me. I'm an opinionated bastard.
Right.
And I say whatever the hell I want, and I don't care who doesn't like it. But just like you, and people don't see this about you sometimes, I guess maybe, you have no problem with opposing views.
No, none.
And I don't either. And by the way, I'm from a rough and tumble life. I'm old. I'm very old, everyone, so you don't know. You could call me every name. You could joke around with me and call me anything. You say, you're full of shit. Clobby. They call me Clobby. And you can tell me I'm full of shit. I mean, again, if it's somebody I know.
Yeah. Well, it's the whole thing. It's like the people, it's funny. They come at you, and they don't realize that you've already, whether it's because of age and experience or time, running a channel or whatever. I've actually looked at a few people before who've gotten, bent out of shape, because what they do is they take it personal. It's like, if you can't stick to the topic and you start slamming the person, then you're starting to lose the argument, right? Like, the discussion, I should say. Then they get real personal. And I'm at a point where I just laugh, because I'm like, is that your best card that you're going to play? Because I have dealt with so much worse than that. Like, is this the best you got? Like, and again, I don't relish it, but at the same time, it's like, they need to understand that, like, after you've been accused of a toy distribution conspiracy and faking the identity of an Australian person for an international hoax.
Oh, Jesus.
There's nothing anybody else can really do or say to you that isn't laughable at that point. It's like,
Yeah, it's a weird world there, man. I hear you that, but I tell you what, nevertheless, I'm doing this for fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and man, you just make it 10 times more fun, dude. Believe me, I would have bugged you a lot earlier if I'd have come up with a good topic for us, and I thought this was a pretty good one.
Yeah, this is fun. This is fun.
I want to do it again soon. We got to think of one, but you're very busy, of course. I do get that, but
well, get ready, because you're about to be in the busy game with us for Iconicon.
I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to Iconicon. Everyone's going to be great.
Analog Toys is in the chat right now, and he is one of the creators of Iconicon for this year. So, like, meaning he and Melinda created the idea. So,
nice.
Right. Yeah.
Analog Toys, welcome. Analog Toys says, some people hate me for not liking Transformers. I feel sorry. I hate you now too, even though I'm just kidding. I don't like it. I don't like it either. I just wanted to feel included. I just got myself in trouble saying I don't dislike them. Other than those garbage Michael Bay movies, I'm old, as you know, Michael, so I wasn't a kid when those were on.
Yeah, you're ancient, Mike. What are we talking about?
Oh, dude, I am.
Yeah, you're so old.
You know I am, buddy. I'm older than everyone here now that Dave Bob left. Dave Bob, you still there, buddy? I'm just taking a shot at you, man, because you're the only one older than me that I know. I love my boy Dave Bob. Well, everyone, I tell you what, one little show note, then we will get out of here. Saturday night, well, of course, Wednesday night, open geekness. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll be here talking to all you wonderful people here, just open geek foolishness, as I always do, 8 p.m. Central. Thursday, the Global Geek Gang, 1 p.m. Central. We got to get you to hang out with us on the Global Geek Gang one of these days, Mike, or at least pop in and say hi, because it's fun, man. We have a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
And Saturday night, 9 p.m. Central, we were reviewing all of Star Trek 66 through 05 only. And that means original series, which we just got through reviewing. We are now currently reviewing Star Trek, the animated series, my wonderful first officer, the magnificent Raquel Briggs, and myself. And after that, we will do the original crew films. We will do TNG, DS9, Voy, and Int. Only real Trek here. To us, Trek, the only real Trek is 66 through 05, except no fakeness, or no filth, as I call it. And so please join us for that. And please, everyone, go, if you haven't, and I know it's impossible to believe that you haven't been to Retroblasting yet, please go to Retroblasting and subscribe. And I just thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. And also, there's a link in the description below to a bunch of great YouTube channels that you might want to check out. Friends that I've made over here in my short time here, being here at YouTube. So I'll see everyone. Well, tomorrow I'm going to be on 3 streams maybe.
Wow.
So I think Michael, it's been, I'm not kidding, about 17 days straight. I've streamed at least once to 3 times.
All right. Well, make sure you're getting up and walking around.
Yeah, I tried that yesterday and hurt myself. But I do a little bit. So, yeah, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I'm going to play us out with tomorrow night, by the way. Well, I think I'm going to be on Lorena's lunch table at some point in the afternoon. I'm not sure what I'm doing before that, but there's another stream before that I'm not allowed to mention. But I will later. And tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central. I'm not sure whose channel it's on this week. Maybe it's on Loki's, but it's Loki's Comic Book Roundtable. I'm a guest on that every week. And many, many other places that you can hear my stupid voice, though why you would want to, I don't know. But a big shout out to the great Stone Loki for this intro he made for me. Good night, everyone. And clobber on.